Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're receiving this audio. Welcome back to yet another episode of the Busted Coverage podcast, available on YouTube and Spotify. I'm your host, Nicholas Persampieri, joined always by my partners in crime, Cam Griffin and Matt Baywood. Before we get started, we just want to say thank you guys again for tuning in. We appreciate all your support. Make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe, and follow whether you're on YouTube or Spotify. And make sure you guys leave comments. Let us know what you guys want us to talk about. We'd love to hear your takes and kind of bounce off of you guys. With that said, we're going to get right to it. Cam is our moderator for this evening. He'll be going over the topics of discussion. So, Cam, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Nick. We are going to do a NCAA recap now that college basketball is officially over. We've had some breaking news and coaching changes this week in the NBA. We're going to get into some of that. We're going to see if maybe teams should have more commitment to their coaches and their GMs. I don't know, but we'll talk about it. The NBA playoffs are here, finally. I am not a Knicks fan, but we will talk about where they're going to go and where every other team's going to go, as well as give you our predictions for that. And we're going to do something special. We're going to have a GOAT debate. For those of you who don't know, GOAT, greatest of all time debate. All sports, who we consider our top five with some honorable mentions. And then we're going to try and make a list and see if we can come to an agreement on a top five, which should be pretty entertaining. And then, as usual, we will close out with Baywoods bets, Nick's rants, and I'll give you a game of the week. So, pay attention. Let's have a good time, and let's kick it off. NCAA tournament is here. Was here. It's over. Florida 2025 national champions over Houston. Interesting game. I don't know if I'd say great game. Very interesting. I think Nick or Matt, one of you guys said it'd be a very defensive-oriented game, and it was. But I think personally it was more about errors and turnovers inflicted by the teams themselves. But we will talk about it. Nick, I'm going to start with you. You had Florida winning. Tell us, what did you think of the championship game?
Thank you very much for starting with me. Yes, I did have Florida winning it all. The only thing that you should have listened to about my bracket, as I've been saying that for the past like 6, 7 weeks or so. But thank you again, Mr. Soundboard. The game itself. Um, Now, if you're someone that likes points, you would have hated it. Someone like me, for example, when I watch basketball or football, I like watching the game in between the game within the game. So it was very intriguing to see, the pressure that Houston likes to put. That's their philosophy, regardless of who they're playing. And their main focal point was Walter Clayton cannot get open looks. So they pressured him, they doubled him, they forced someone else to score the basketball. And fortunately, I believe it's Will Richard showed up. Condon played pretty good. Elijah, the supporting cast of Florida, won them this game. Even though Walter Clayton played a little bit better down the stretch in the second half and was facilitating the basketball, when you take your primary scorer away, everyone else has to step up. And that's that game within the game part. I thought Florida's head coach did a great job drawing up plays for the other players, knowing that the focal point was going to be, okay, they're going to take Walter away. Walter may get his points. He might get a couple threes here and there. But, how do we adjust from there? And I just felt Florida made more adjustments than Houston did, even though LJ Cryer played great. I thought he played well. But, and I know we'll probably talk about as well, those two turnovers at the end of the game were killer by the same player. But at the end of the day, it's the game within the game. And I thought Florida won the game within the game. And that is why they are champions and Houston is not. Simple as that.
All right.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I obviously, as we know, I said last week, I picked Duke to be in the finals. Very upset they didn't, but all the credit in the world to Houston for getting there, and all the credit in the world for Houston for doing what they did. If you watch the game, they were winning a good chunk of the game. So I thought half the country was going to be shocked. Especially people talking about the experienced team. They had the poise. They've been there before, but that doesn't always seem to matter since Florida found a way to win the game, although the turnovers were very costly at the end of the game. Matt, you said you had some rants about this game, and I've waited and I've tried my hardest not to ask you because I wanted it to be fresh and live here. How are you feeling about the game? Please tell us, because I've
Well,
been curious myself.
I sweated through a few shirts. My wife wasn't too happy about all the laundry that was created because of the anger that I was having by halftime was pretty immense. I mean, Walter Clayton had 0 points. I texted in our group chat. I said, if Walter Clayton does anything this game, Florida's going to win. And luckily, he showed up in the second half and put 11 points on the board. He really did show up when he meant it. He almost choked the game away by off an inbounds pass. They were doing a full court pressure towards the end of the game, and he passes the ball like a lob pass over half court to Aberdeen, and it almost got turned over. And if they ran down and hit a three, it was game over. If they ran down and hit a two, it was a tie game. Not a smart decision in that instance, but therefore he got bailed out. I was happy with that. Nick and I both placed a bet for -1. So basically Florida money line. I had a coworker that ended up betting Florida when they were down by 12. And was it 12 or 6? I think it was 12. They were down by 12 at one point. And
Yeah, they were down by 12 in the second half,
yeah,
early second half.
so the odds were like plus 10,000, and he slammed that one out of the park. I mean, we've seen this all tournament though. Florida would demolish a team, and then the next game they'd look like they're an eighth seed, and then they would somehow come back and like, oh, that's the Florida we recognize. They come back and win the game, and then the next week they would just blow out whoever they're playing, and then the week after that it's just like, who is this Florida? They were pretty unrecognizable, but they always Walter Clayton figured out how to get it done specifically. Now Aberdeen started that little stretch because he was getting to the free throw line, although he did miss a few free throws. Um, Other than that, I thought Condon played well, aside from the fact that he couldn't hold on to the basketball at some point. It seemed like Florida didn't really remember, and Walter Clayton was turning the ball over a bit too. They combined for like 7 turnovers for a college basketball game. That's a lot,
Mm.
especially in a defensive route like that. Like this was more about Houston not being able to score than Florida doing anything to win. Florida hung around, but when you're getting that many turnovers and you're swarming Walter Clayton like that off the ball, my rant is about the fact that they didn't adjust until after halftime. Not even like not even 5 minutes before, no timeouts did it. We're not going to change it from the pick and roll offense to more one on one because every time they try to set a pick for Walter Clayton to get the ball free, the guy steps through the pick and now there's two people in his face. And then he's trying to throw it over a lengthy Houston defense and it's getting turned over. Or Condon can't hold on to the basketball. Or it's Condon gets it and their center collapses down. I mean, Houston was playing relentless defense. My whole gripe about the whole game was the fact that it's so like from a spectator, it's easier to say, but I'm saying we're seeing it, and Nick is probably feeling the same way. We're seeing it. What the pick and roll is not working. Change it. They didn't change it until like 8 minutes into after halftime, and then Walter Clayton started scoring. Then they were able to bring the pick and roll back because they didn't know what they were going to do. And they were probably a little bit tired. That was my rant. just like frustrating because I felt like Florida could have taken that game over at any moment. Yes, they were playing good defense, but when you got Richard having 18 points, he wasn't your leading scorer all tournament. Then you have Condon, who, I mean, he's a good player. He showed up. Although he had the turnovers, he still did show up. He was rebounding. He had, I think, 7 total rebounds. Richard had 8. And Walter Clayton was getting some assists in the first half, but he the offense that I don't know what the coach's name is. I know he's the younger guy, but he's now with the youngest coach to win. He needed to make
Todd Golden.
Yeah, he's the youngest coach to win a tournament.
Yep.
So all of what I just said was just sort of narrowed into one point, that I couldn't stand the fact that they were running the pick and roll for 15 or for 25 minutes of a 40-minute game. Like, if you're coaching in a championship game, you need to make an adjustment fast if it's not working. They luckily got bailed out. Walter Clayton nailed all of his free throws, and he bounced back from that setback pretty early. I think Richard hit all 4 too. He did. And that being said, yeah, LJ Cryer had a good game, and it really boiled down to uh, Emmanuel Sharp turning the ball over twice in the most crucial moments of the game, because they had opportunities to score, and I think he just kept trying to drive the basketball into about 3 people, and the ball went off his knee, and Florida was able to just kill the clock out from there. But yeah, definitely props to Florida and Houston. I didn't think Houston was going to get this far, and they thoroughly impressed me with their grittiness on defense. But if you can't score points, you can't win, no matter how much defense you play. So basketball is a little bit different than any other sport.
Yeah, and heads up, half the country who picked Duke. It was nice to see Houston, I think, get there. I think they've been knocking on the door for so long. Obviously, I didn't pick them. Probably wouldn't pick them again. But they've been knocking on the door for so long. One thing to take away from this game, though, if you go into the box score, you look at the shot attempts. Florida had 21, made 21. Houston made 24. Houston shot a slightly less percentage, but got off more shots. The difference in this game was turnovers and free throws. If you look at the turnovers, Florida had 11, Houston had 19. You will not win a game with 19 turnovers. Houston shot 14 free throws and made 9. Not terrible. But then you go to the other side of it, Florida shot 21 and made 17. The difference in this game are those 2 statistics. At the 13-minute mark, you had an 11-point lead. I believe it was 34 to 45 or 35 to 46. You had a lead all the way down, and then at 19 seconds, you had the opportunity to call a timeout and draw up a play. You did not draw up the correct play. The end of the game, the ball was in the wrong person's hands. I don't care that it slipped out of his hands. That happens. A lot of unpredictable things happen in sports. Whether you're a field goal kicker and your foot hits the dirt before you kick the ball, accidents happen, things happen. That is not what the game should have been blamed on. That's the last thing we remember, but that is not what cost Houston the game. 19 turnovers cost them the game. Side note, Houston coach Calvin Johnson. Is it Samson Calvin? I forget his name off the top of my head. Calvin Sampson. Yes, Calvin Sampson.
Yeah, Kelvin Sampson.
You cannot go into a press conference and throw your player under the bus and just simply say, well, we need to get a shot off. You drew up a play for the wrong person. LJ Cryer has been your best player all year. Oh, well, he was double teamed. Well, you should have drawn up a play to get him open no matter what. He is the person who got you to where you needed to be, and he was your best player all game. The fact that somebody else took the shot and made a poor decision, jumping before they should have jumped, that is not on him. You are the coach. Take your responsibility. And that is all I will say on that, because that has bothered me when I saw that little clip. I was a little annoyed, saying, look, the kid feels bad enough. You should be in the press conference and consoling this kid, not throwing him under the bus to the wolves who are the media. That to me was a little disrespectful, and if I were that kid, I would transfer right away. But that's just me. We won't go in there.
I got
But that's
one more thing to add when you're done, Cam, if you don't mind.
No, step up, because what do you want to say? I have one more thing to say, but I'll let you go first.
Oh, okay. So I was going to say Houston's half-court offense was also needed to be adjusted. Although I don't care because I picked Florida to win and my wallet got fatter. But Houston's half-court offense, they would just like Florida would be like have four people on Houston in the offensive area, and Houston would get a rebound because I felt like they could I didn't feel like Florida got one rebound like for the majority of that game. I'm like, yeah, wow, Houston's getting every offensive board possible. And when they would get the board, they would just get to the half court set and they would just like dribble some time off. It's like if you push the pace a little bit, I feel like you could have had a runaway. You might have made the 12-point lead a little bit further, and then Florida wouldn't have been able to come back. And then the second point that I was going to make was Jim Nance was wearing a sweatshirt, and the announcers were talking all tournament about how every time he's worn that sweatshirt, they're undefeated. Nick and I both bet against the sweatshirt. We prevailed. The sweatshirt is no longer. The Undertaker streak ended, and so did Jim Nance's sweatshirt streak.
That's funny. I did not know that. I was not paying attention to that announcer part. That is really funny. Side note, Florida did out rebound Houston by 1. For Houston's been a very good rebounder.
It was different for the offensive rebounds, though, for the majority of the game. I felt like Florida did better job of boxing out in the late in the second half.
Yeah. Well, you know what it is at this point? It was Florida's offensive rebounds. They got 8. Houston got 15.
Yeah.
And then the defensive rebounds, 32-24. So every time Houston missed a shot, they did not get the rebound. So they did sometimes, maybe in the first half, but in the second half, it was basically the faucet was shut off. So they had to go through their offense. Calvin Sampson will have to take a good look at his half court offense, because when you have a player as good as LJ Cryer and you still don't win, I don't know what they're doing next year. I know they do have a very good recruit coming in. I can't think of which superstar is transferring there. We were talking about him earlier, but that'll be a conversation for a later day. But Matt, you brought up a point that I want to address real quick. Nick, I know you know where I'm going with this. We had somebody write a comment or talk to us about we should speak about the announcers doing these NCAA tournaments. One in particular, who I won't name just yet, but you brought up the Jim Nance comment about the sweater he wears and they're undefeated. Before we talk about the specific announcer, what were your general thoughts? Because I have my own feelings about some of the announcers we get during the NCAA tournament. Maybe they might be NBA players, commentators who don't usually do men's or don't usually do women's tournaments. What do we think about the commentators, and do we have favorites? I'm going to start myself, because I know this is putting both of you kind of on the spot a little bit. You don't have to name names, just like what announcers would you like? For example, it was brought to our attention by someone who watches and listens, or not watches, but listens to us, that they do not care for Charles Barkley's announcements. Now, I would have to tend to agree to an extent. I do not think he does a very good job commentating college basketball. But I would give him benefit of the doubt and say, you know what? He probably only has a week to learn it in between doing the NBA, as long as he does do it. So it doesn't bother me as much. I feel he's more on it for comic relief than anything else. I don't like him announcing without Shaq, Ernie, and Kenny. I think those four together do a great job. By themselves, not so much. He does not really know the college game. He was making some comments and talking about things I just did not feel merit the moment. But all in all, I understand that he's not a college announcer. So to me, I don't really care. I just zone in on the game more than anything. But I know some of you guys have not liked it, so we're going to put it out there and we're going to talk about announcers that maybe shouldn't be announcing. Nick, let me ask you this question. When you watch sports, we won't just say basketball, we'll say sports in general. Do you have announcers or feel there are announcers out there who just don't, I don't want to say know what they're talking about, but don't appeal to you and you just feel like it'd be better if somebody else was doing it?
Well, personally,
If you want to name drop, you can.
if Gus Johnson could commentate every sporting event in the world, that'd be great. I love Gus Johnson. He brings more emotion, I feel, to the game than any other commentator in terms of because he does a lot of the Big Ten stuff. He has commentated a few NFL games, but he is the man. I love that guy. Shout out to Gus Johnson. If you're listening, please subscribe. I mean, when I was a kid watching basketball, we got privileged. We had Marv Albert, and Kenny Albert, his son. We had Ian Eagle. We had, you know, even going back to football, we had John Madden, Al Michaels. You know, there's so many great iconic commentators that it feels like anyone that they throw in today, even Nance. Um, so Vern Lundquist, I believe his name was, right? The college football guy.
Yep.
That was him. Vern Lundquist. He was awesome too. So, I mean, I don't really have a preference per se, but one person I also do like is on Fox is Kevin Burkhardt. I don't think he gets enough credit. I think he's actually really good. He brings emotion to the game too. So, but as a commentator, like it's one thing to commentate on the game, but it's another thing to make a viewer feel like they're a part of the game, like you're a fan at the game. Because fans have an effect on the game with their participation, and if you can get that kind of reaction from home, that's a great commentator, regardless of whether they could talk about fruit during the game, but if it makes sense, sweeter than a strawberry was that finger roll, what I'm saying? Like something like that. Just something entertaining, but yet conveys an emotion. That's what we seek as fans when we watch games. We want to feel like we're a part of that moment. And commentators are the narrators of those moments. So, if some people may feel that one does a better job than the other, then, that's up for opinion. As long as someone can make me feel like I'm part of the game, I'm there. So I approve. So it's no hard feelings either way.
Yeah, and I feel the same way. You want to be engaged, you want to be enjoyable. Like I said, I'm not a particular fan of Charles Barkley's commentating, but it doesn't get under my skin. Yeah, again, he has maybe a week to prepare for the NCAA tournament. Not concerned. I'm going to name drop a little bit. I love Doris Burke's commentating. I love Beth Mellon's commentating. Ian Eagle, great. His son, wow, does a great job, just like his dad did. I'm with you, Marv Albert, probably one of the best of the best. And I'm going to go with this, the recent retiree, Hubie Brown. There's just something to learn every time Hubie Brown talked. I would learn something. His stories, I felt, were good for the moment, and the respect that he catered from the players, perfect. Now, I love college football. I've not had a bad college football announcer or one that just annoys me, maybe because the action is so fast and there's less commercials in the NFL, and it goes. But I haven't had a bad college football announcer, I feel, so I wouldn't be able to speak to that. But Announcer I can't stand. I'm sorry. I'm gonna throw it out there. Is the New York Knicks commentator? I can't think of his name because I pushed it out of my head. Oh, Walt
What?
Clyde Frazier. Not a fan. He gets under my
Oh,
skin. He always has. I know this is not a popular sentiment. I do not like his announcing. I do not like his suits he wears. Everything about him just rubs me the wrong way when I watch a Knicks game. So that's me. But
Tweaking and dishing and wheeling and dealing.
yeah, whatever. Just say
Hey,
he
he's a
passed the ball.
legend, man.
So that's just me. My dad loved him. I did not. So that's that is what it is. Matt, do you have an announcer or anything for any sport that you feel not my favorite, or how do you feel about announcers nowadays?
I'm very
Real quick.
passionate about this topic. I'm glad this is being asked. I'm going to go through the list of the greats real quick before I start roasting these other commentators.
That's fine.
NHL, most underrated, but he's technically the doc. Mike Emmerich, one of the best commentators ever. He did the two most recent Penguins Stanley Cups. He recently retired, but when I was avidly watching the Stanley Cup playoffs when the Penguins were going through and they beat the Capitals both times and they won back-to-back championships and almost repeated. I mean, he is one of the most entertaining commentators I've ever listened to, and he just keeps you fully engaged the entire time. There was never a boring thing. I don't know any of their names, but any soccer announcer I feel is great because you don't know what they're saying and you're hyped the whole time. Kevin Harlan, what happened?
All you understand is goal.
Oh
Sorry,
yeah, absolutely. And you
I
just
had to
know
say it.
it's getting hyped because when they get towards the goal, they just start getting louder, and you're sitting at the edge of your seat.
Exactly.
Um,
Sorry to cut you
they
off.
got even Spice City gets it going.
Don't get Nick started on that one.
Kevin Harlan, he's a CBS announcer. He did the tournament and he does football for CBS. I think he's great. He's pretty energetic. Uh, he's actually featured on when a bunch of the commercials. Do you remember that commercial where they were showing all the X and O's and ended up being it was like the Miami Miracle commercial where they're showing the X's and O's of how many where he cut and whatnot, and then how they got around, and then Gronk at the end missing the defender and they scored, and it was oh, it's a miracle. That's Kevin Harlan. He's a great commentator in my opinion. I only like Charles Barkley with Shaq and the team, like you were saying.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Charles by himself sounds like an uneducated dumbass. Um, I appreciate everything he does because he single-handedly wins bets for me because everything he says, I bet the opposite, and it works out. Unpopular opinion, I like Tony Romo.
Oh God.
I also like Greg Olson. Moving. What happened?
Baywood, that was terrible. Okay, let me tell you something. Cam, Matt, I'm from Alabama. All right, I know basketball. Thank you. I'll be here all week. Sorry.
Charles. How many you got, Charles? Charles, how many you got? How many
John
you
Morant.
Um, thank God this
Charles.
guy's gone, but Phil Simms, I couldn't stand him. It was Jim Nance and Phil Simms. I don't mind Jim Nance, but Phil Simms got on my damn nerves. Chris Collinsworth, the biggest Patrick Mahomes dick rider. He'll manage to fit Patrick Mahomes into let's say boxing commentary. He'll be like, "Oh, Muhammad Ali, you see a lot of Mahomes-esque in him." Like, what are you talking about? We can't just he has to get paid to see how many times he can throw Patrick Mahomes in on broadcast, even when he's not playing. Be like Jalen Hurts.
Here's a guy.
Yeah. Well, here's a guy. Yeah, he tries to be like John Madden in a way. But yeah, Chris Collinsworth will sit there. He'll be like, let's say Jalen Hurts, he's playing the Giants. He's like, oh, that would be a throw that you would see out of Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes does it. It's like, dude, shut up. Nobody's talking about him. Talking about Jalen Hurts. Anyway, go Birds for Nick.
Go Birds. You already know. Here's a guy. Okay. You want to be like Patrick Mahomes? That's my Chris Collinsworth. I'll be here all week.
And lastly is I don't like Tom Brady as a commentator. I think he got better by the end of the year, but you could only be a goat at so many things, and that's not one of them.
Well,
You
I
know, if
think.
it were me, I wouldn't have thrown that.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's
Well,
where Tony
what's
Romo gets me
funny?
actually because I laugh at it because Tony Romo will be like, "Oh, in this situation, I would have done no, Tony, you would have thrown a pick six."
And I think that's what irritates me about Tony Romo commentating is that I don't know why now you feel you know what decisions you should have made because you didn't make them when you were in Dallas. You know, that's why I'm a little more curious to see Tom Brady do it because I think the most frustrating thing with me with Tony Romo was having him call the play before it happens and making the right read and right call, but then you go look at his career and it was the same play which he made the wrong read and the wrong call. So I can't imagine Dallas fans were actually enjoy listening to him commentate when it's like, well, you're a better commentator than you were a quarterback.
So
But
it's like
that's just me.
yeah, you obviously know your football. Why didn't it
Yeah,
translate prior?
Well, Romo
and
was a
that's
good
fine.
quarterback. Just injuries did him in.
Yeah, he was a good
Take a look at
quarterback,
his fourth quarters though. His fourth
but
quarters
that's
in the clutch
that's
moments, he would just throw it away.
I know.
the
I'm just
problem.
saying he was a good quarterback though.
He was a good
As a
quarterback.
Bird fan, I can say that.
He was a good quarterback. I'm not going to give him that. I'm
He was
not
a good
going to say that he
quarterback.
wasn't a bad quarterback, but he wasn't clutch. Listen, would they win other than the Dez caught it game? Did they win a playoff game with him?
I think so.
I don't
I
think they
can
made
find
it.
out.
They definitely didn't make it to the NFC Championship game that I know of.
No, they haven't made the NFC Championship since 1996. I
Look,
know that one for a fact.
let's not move the goalposts for anybody. The bottom
Yeah.
line is that
True. True.
during your career, you don't have any rings to show for it. You lost your biggest games, which you did because you didn't win it. You didn't get there.
The field
You
goal
lost.
fumble.
You, you lost your biggest games, and it's funny now because a lot of the things you lost on is what you're looking at other quarterbacks and telling them what to do or saying what they should have done. And you're calling it right. So something didn't translate down the stretch. That's all we're going to say on that. We'll get into the more football related conversations like that probably during the NFL draft. I'm sure we'll have some comments and stuff like that, which comes up, I think, next week. So, last commentator, and then we can move on to another topic. It is I'm going to shout out Dickie V. I know he beat cancer again.
Oh yeah,
I do
baby.
I do enjoy listening to Dickie V. He is a little eccentric. Now he does only maybe 1 or 2 games a year. Obviously, his strength is not back 100%. It's always a Duke or a Kentucky game because that's where those are the two he goes with. But we can't talk about announcers without probably talking about one of the most famous announcers in Dickie V. So kudos to him. Kudos to shout out. Um, thanks, Liz. I'm gonna shout out Liz. Liz, you told us to talk about it. We talked about it again, like Nick said before. Drop your comments in the thing, and we'll discuss it. We'll do our research, and we'll have a conversation about it. So, thank you, Liz.
Shout out to you, Liz.
Now let's move on for a minute. I want to talk about some of the coaching changes going on in the NBA because this past week we had two that, for all intents and purposes, came out of nowhere.
Mm.
We had Mike Malone get fired from the Denver Nuggets and Taylor Jenkins get fired from the Grizzlies. Matt, I started with Nick on the last one. I'm going to start with you on this one. What was your thought when you first saw some of these coaching changes right before the playoffs? Because we were a week before the end of the season, and two high-profile coaches on two teams that are competing to win the West are now head coachless.
It's just weird. Like I didn't even really have an expo. Like this late in the season, I don't understand why you're firing your coach. Like it's not like you're out of the play-in tournament. Like if anything, the Phoenix head coach needs to be fired.
Mm.
We're talking about Memphis. Yeah, they're in the play-in game, but John Morant, he barely played this season. And
Mm-hmm.
you got Denver. who, like you, for all intents and purposes, they're tied with the 3rd and the 5th seed, and they're sitting at 4. They clinched the 4. So, and they could be the 6th seed. All the teams from spots 8 to 2 are all within 4 games. Most of them within 2. Just those last 2 play-in teams with Golden State and Memphis, they're within, 4 games of the 2 spot. That just shows how loaded the West is. Why are we firing our coach like, I don't even care about the Memphis coach. You could do what you want there. Specifically, I mean, John Morant's a lot to handle with his grenade celebrations and this, that, and the other thing. The dude thinks that he's a gangster. Clarence, he went to private school. But the Denver coach really blindsided me. Like, you fire your coach and your GM. Yeah, you went on a 4-game skid, but at the same time, you're still the 4 seed. You got Jokic and Murray, and a coach that just won a title 2 years ago. I don't understand that decision making, and they're going to put one of the assistant coaches as head coaches. I know somebody had just mentioned before Dan Hurley, but I don't think that's going to happen. That can't happen at least this season. I really don't understand the thought process. At least get through the playoffs before you fire the guy. Maybe he was too hard to deal with. This, that, and the other thing. He didn't want to listen to the upper management, but that's why you hired a coach, so that he can coach the players. And I can't. When you have one of the best, if not the best player in the world on your team, there's no reason to fire the coach in the middle of the season, unless it had to do with Jokic having a problem with him, which I just doubt it. I doubt it. So again, I'm waiting for more information to come upon this on why he was fired. Maybe one of you two have more insight on me, but that completely caught me off guard this week.
No, I'm I'm with you. The Denver Nuggets just won the championship 2 years ago, and a few years ago when Murray was out with his ACL injury, I was saying if Murray were here, this team is ready to win an NBA championship. Jokic was on the come up, even though he was still good. He was on the come up. Aaron Gordon had just been traded there, and the only thing they were missing was a point guard. And then when Murray came back, it was gangbusters, and they took off. The games they've lost this year, Murray has been hurt, and Aaron Gordon has not played. Jokic has been a tank. He has not missed too many games this year, or in the last few years. So I'm not sure what prompted them to fire their coach a week before the season ended. I'm not sure what their reasoning was. I feel like you shot yourselves in the foot for the playoffs. Obviously, it wasn't the Cooper Flag sweepstakes that you fired your coach to tank. So I'm not sure what they're thinking. But hopefully more information comes out. I know some articles came out. I didn't get to read them. I glanced through some of them, and it still didn't really say anything that made me believe that he deserved to be fired. So I think something will probably come out over the summer. But I'm with you. I'm shocked in terms of Taylor Jenkins. Grizzlies, I mean, you didn't have Ja for a good chunk of the season. I think Aaron Baines, I'm sorry, missed some games, or Baines, whatever his first name is. I think Jaren Jackson was your most consistent player in games this year, even though he might have missed a few. So I'm not sure what the reasoning was there, especially with a team that is supposedly on the come up, that we're going to let go of a coach and hope to bring somebody else in. So I'm with you. I don't understand the hires. Yeah, John Morant has been a handful, we'll say, since he's been in Memphis. But despite that, the team has still won games. So letting the coach go, who's been the most consistent piece, is kind of interesting. I'm not sure who you're going to get that's going to replace him. So, Nick, I'm going to move to you. These two firings, talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
What are you feeling about these?
So I actually got a little scoop
Ooh.
as to what happened in Denver.
Ooh. Well, share with us. Inquiring minds want to know.
Nikki Scoops. I should open an ice cream shop. That'd be kind of nice. Ice cream sounds really good right now. Anyway, The Denver Nuggets fired coach Michael Malone and general manager Calvin Booth due to a toxic environment created by a, quote, Cold War between the two. This conflict, fueled by differing philosophies on roster construction and player development, led to a lack of communication and a divided organization. Nuggets ownership felt it was time to make a change to give the team a jolt heading into the playoffs, despite the team's recent winning streak and their championship winning history.
Yeah,
So it sounds like the coach and GM had a strained relationship that bled into the locker room and other parts of the organization.
Yeah.
Malone preferred a veteran-heavy approach, whereas the GM wanted to develop the younger players, which I think could be why Braun is getting a lot more playing time. Apparently, they did not communicate and often spoke negatively about each other.
so
So
fire
the
them
owners
both.
decided to get rid of both of them.
Wow.
Yeah, which is crazy because that coach, Malone, is the winningest coach in Nuggets history
Yeah, I mean, this
and
their
won
only
them their
title,
only
isn't it?
championship.
Yeah, their only championship.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it definitely didn't have anything to do with Jokic, I don't think.
It's
I think
still fresh.
or the players were saying what's going on, and ownership just took action, is what it sounds like. Which is kind of crazy to think that, like you said, they're still the 4 seed despite the coach and the GM not getting along. But
Do I
why,
have
like,
this
to do
wrong?
it?
Doesn't the coach pick their GM?
No.
No,
Okay, it's not
no,
that way. Okay, gotcha.
no.
Okay.
But in any which case, you would think they'd get along, but as we would say, right? Winning helps cure a lot of ailments. The Nuggets are still winning games. They're a 50-win team still. Granted, they're well behind Oklahoma City, but what? You got Jokic, you got Murray, you got Aaron Gordon.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like it's going to be Nuggets Clippers first round. That's going to be a fun matchup. Denver has home court. I don't understand the whole getting rid of Malone. Personally, Memphis, I actually was not even aware they fired their coach. There's just so much more going on in Memphis in terms of what Ja's throwing in the crowd today. As talented as a player he is, he gets himself in a little bit of publicity for sure. But even then, Memphis is also, they're a play-in team, but winning record. You had injuries. Last couple of years, they've been pretty banged up. So we don't really know what Memphis's ceiling is. And to do it right at the end of the season, like you said, number 2 through number 8, only 4 games separate those teams.
Yeah.
It's like any good stretch of play, you could be the second best team in your conference. So I
And
don't
we
know.
saw that. We saw
I
that
don't agree.
when Luca got traded, and I think the Lakers were like damn near a play-in team. They win a couple of games, and they were all of a sudden the 2 seed.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then 3 weeks later, or like 3 games later, they were back to the 8 or the 6. It's like,
And now
what
they're
just
3.
happened? Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. I personally don't agree with firing coaches mid-season. I would wait until either I'm officially eliminated or do it when the season's over. That's just me. I personally don't agree with the Denver firing at all. But when you're causing rifts and it's affecting other parts, you gotta clean it out. So it's gonna be very interesting to see who they bring in going forward, especially in Denver.
Yeah, I think Denver is the one that everyone's really shocked about. The Grizzlies one, I think you can justify the firing because you can always look at Ja Morant and say, well, he's been out of control. You're the coach. You should be saying stuff to him, get him under control.
Mm-hmm.
But the Denver one, I find interesting because the owners didn't choose a side. They
Yep.
let it go. They cleaned house, so to speak. I don't think that's the right move. I think, if anything, you keep the coach wanting to play veterans versus wanting to play young people. or rookies. I mean, you're a veteran-heavy team. If you want to sprinkle some rookies in, okay. Even Christian Braun was there for their winning team
Yep.
when they won the
Yeah, he
title.
was a rookie that year.
Yeah, to me,
Yep.
he's now a veteran. It's 2 years later. He's more veteran than some of the other people maybe on the bench who aren't getting playing time. But again, I think that you have a veteran heavy team. If you're trying to play some of the younger guys to rest some of your stars, okay, maybe that should be the scenario. But the GM should not be telling the coach who he should and should not be playing. You are about roster construction. The coach is about coaching the players he has in front of him. So, shame on the owners for not picking a side because I don't think that was the right decision. I don't. Another coach coming in could have a completely different philosophy and look at things from a different point and say, "Hey, look, you know what? We don't need this player. Let's trade him and get somebody else." You could have a GM who swings for the fences, and next thing you know, your team is broken up because he wanted to go out and get somebody else. I don't agree with it. They had a winning formula, and they let it go, and I think it will come back to bite them in the butt.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how their first round matchup favors them, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But let me ask you both this question. Do you think ownerships, actually, it's going to segue a little perfectly, in the NBA, NFL, NHL, whatever major league sports, should we show more commitment to our coaches? Nick, what do you think?
Commitment to our coaches.
Like we
I think
signed
it's
them.
a little.
Let me give you an example real quick. I'm sorry. I'll give you an example. More often than not, we sign coaches to these long-term deals, and then we let them go on 5-6 year deals, and we let them go after 2 or 3 years. Should we show more commitment and give them, sometimes after one season, should we show them more commitment and give them more time? Because it does take a while to build a team.
Sorry, I had a quick cough attack.
That's fine.
I think that why we give coaches 6-year contracts. I don't know. That's just my opinion. If you were not so sure, why not give them options, like a team option, just like a player or something. Give them 2 years with a club option for another 2, right? Because if you're so quick, and I think it's a lot different from like basketball to football to baseball in terms
Mm-hmm.
of like, I feel like basketball, especially, I feel like it's very quick to just all of a sudden we're gonna rebuild now, or we're gonna go into a different direction. I feel like, and I think you can rebuild a team faster in basketball on average than you can in football. That's just my opinion. Um,
Why'd it take the
do
Knicks
I
so
think we
long?
should be? Well, listen, man, I don't know, dude. I don't own the team. I don't know, man. We've been built, rebuilt, reconstructed, renovated, and remodeled for the second round for at least 20 years now. So at least we're consistent. Um, but like, do I think if you give someone a 3-year contract, honor the 3-year contract? It like, why are we gonna sign someone like what's a good example? Who's Harbaugh in the Chargers?
Okay.
Right, he comes in, he gets multiple years. If they had got rid of him after that performance against the Texans in the playoffs, would you guys have understood that, the way the Chargers played that playoff game?
What was their record before?
I think they had a winning record, but they got absolutely annihilated
I
in
probably
that
would
game.
not have honestly, I probably would not have understood why they got rid of him after a year after a winning season, even though they stunk in the playoffs. Because we have a history of seeing teams in the NFL have a great what's his name? His brother, by the way, great regular season and then laying goose eggs in the playoffs. So, I mean, I would have been surprised if they got rid of him, but That's just me.
Right. So, but yeah, so like there's people that will say, well, they got creamed in the playoffs. This isn't going to work. And they'll give up on the guy right away.
Mhm.
But like you said, the Chargers had to reshuffle around their roster and stuff. And I thought Harbaugh did a good job as his first year back in the NFL in a while. And then coming back, to the Nuggets. I know we just talked about it, but like you had a guy who was your coach for 10 years, won you your first championship. He's the winningest coach in the history of your franchise, and you low key did him dirty. You couldn't at least let the season finish. Wait till the season's over, right? Because at the end of the day, it's about the on court product. And I, I don't know. So I think yes, if you're gonna give a coach a 3-year contract, don't get rid of him after 2. Give him the 3 years. Okay, it's been 3 years. This is not working. We had XYZ expectations. We're relieving you of your duties. Okay, it is what it is. So, but I think sports, there's such a urgency to wanna, the moment it doesn't go the way you want it to go, we need to rebuild. So which I'll probably rant on a specific team later on, but that's my take.
Okay, that makes sense. I do think we should show a little more commitment. Matt, what do you think about that?
I'm yes and no on it. Yes, because there are coaches that deserve it. The Steve Kerrs, the at the time Belichick. I thought Mike Malone deserved it. In football, Andy Reid deserves it. Mike Tomlin was able to bottle up Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, Big Ben Roethlisberger, and all the other nutcases that they drafted. And then when they go to other teams, they just self deconstruct, and then that's that. So being able to coach that is big, even though he's not, he's a perennial midway pack as of the last 8 years. Um, but the situation that I draw concerned with when it comes to this is that a few years ago, the Dolphins had a coach, Brian Flores, as their head coach.
Mm-hmm.
And the Dolphins wanted to lose out the season to tank for Tua. And Brian Flores was like, no, I'm going to try to win the games. Like, the defense is good. We're going to be trying to win these games. Like, we're trying to build something here. And then they ended up firing him. At that kind of firing, I would rather have that happen and then just release the coach because he signed the contract. He can't just go to another team. I would agree with that kind of situation because the coach obviously doesn't want to be there anymore. There's a difference between upper management and the coach. In the Nuggets case, when it's just the GM who's like responsible for just acquiring the players, and the coach who's responsible for putting the game plan together. I think if there was an issue there, you get rid of just the GM, let Mike Malone finish out the season. So in that sense, I'm like, yes, you should commit to your coaches. However, if you're in a situation where you hired a coach and you're just going to blame him just for no reason, why hold on to him? Should you commit to your coach, like Nick said, and just let him run out the 3 years? Well, it depends because Mike McCarthy did nothing with a lot. I would have fired Mike McCarthy midway through last season. But again, it's really situational. A guy like Kyle Shanahan, you kind of wanted to give him one more year just because they did reach the Super Bowl. Not this past Super Bowl, but the Super Bowl before they were in it. They just, rookie quarter or second year quarterback. Um, didn't play his best game, and the game plan might not have been that great, but they were knocking on the door for quite some time. He was in the Super Bowl in Atlanta. We could talk about that another day, but I would let him finish. But there's certain coaches it has to be like situational based where I'd be like, yeah, you can go. like you're not helping at all. But having the Nuggets, the guy that holds the expo markers, while Mike Malone is on this, talking to the players on the court, this guy's holding the expo markers. He's now coaching a 2-year removed championship team into the playoffs now. I just don't don't agree with that. It's just plain and simple, but it's 100% situational in my opinion. Go ahead, Kim.
Yeah, I'm with you both. And I was thinking of my head, are there organizations out there that have trusted the process, quote unquote? Yes. And then as the process starts going and you're not where you need to be, yeah, then you can relieve your coach or your GM and say, look, we're here, we're ready to play. We just need that next factor. It's not our players, it's our coach. Okay, cool. It's been 3 to 5 years. You've built. Now you can find who will take you over the hump. A la the Warriors. I loved Mark Jackson as a coach. I'm upset he didn't get any other coaching jobs after. But let's not forget who built that Warriors dynasty. It was Mark Jackson. And then he was let go, and Steve Kerr took him over the hump and got the championships. Let's look at Philly. Philly, trust the process. Basketball, their whole situation. Yeah, they tanked. They got a 1 pick. They got Embiid. Wow, he got hurt. They tanked again. Got Ben Simmons. And what happened when they ended up playing together? They made the playoffs. They were a very formidable team. And they were a Kawhi Leonard 3 bounce, 4 bounce, 5 bounce shot from going to the NBA Finals. So the history is there. Look at Washington in the NFL. It just took you a quarterback. You got your player, and you got a new coach, and look what happened. You made the playoffs this year. Look at Detroit. Who the hell was talking about Detroit the last few years? Nobody. They were awful. You built, you got your quarterback, you kept your coach, you trusted his process, and you had arguably one of the best teams in football. Injuries, ironically, did not derail your regular season. And now you're coming back this year with a good chunk of the same players. Let's put it that way. So I think you can trust the process with these teams, and you got to trust and give people time to do it. Things don't happen overnight. There's an adjustment period for rookies in any sport. So to think that you can build through a draft, it doesn't really happen. Even building through free agency, you need a little more, and you need to give people time. And the one thing it seems that we don't give coaches and GMs is time. We are in a win now league because money, money, money drives everything. But if we gave them time, we might see a lot of different things. Because what's the one thing we see in all sports? We see, oh, this player didn't develop. I'm gonna trade him to another team. And then what happens when he gets on that team? He flourishes. And it's, well, this player was on this team. Wouldn't they have been good? Look at Cleveland. Cleveland drafted LeBron James. Made the playoffs several years. He left. Got all these draft pieces. Got Kyrie Irving. He came back. They ended up winning a championship. He left again. We're years later from him removing, but guess what? You didn't go out and make huge trades. You trusted your draft process. You made the trades here and there, and now you have arguably 2 of the best guards in the East, and Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. And you have great front court players you drafted. You built your team. It is possible when you give people time. So that's what I'm going to say there. I'm going to end that. Do either one of you have anything further to say about should we trust our coaches and trust the process and be more committed or not? Anything?
Nick, I'll
I would
let you
say
go. If you have something, Nick, I'll let you go first since it feels like an hour since you talked.
I do not. I'm going to save mine for another segment.
Okay. I was just gonna say when it comes to like building teams, I didn't like touch on this at all. When it comes to building teams, I mean, these upper management guys need to also understand qualities in the draft class because
fact.
not every draft class is the same. You're not going to get a quarterback this year or a point guard this year that is either going to be ready this year or it could be a bust. You never know. When you're the first pick in the draft, that's a lot of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Trevor Lawrence isn't all that he's cracked up to be. He showed some talent, but he also showed that, he's not super committed to playing at the highest level. I think there was questions to his commitment before he got drafted. But that being said, a year or two after Kenny Pickett got drafted, and I think I've talked about this guy every week we've had the podcast. Kenny Pickett got drafted in the first round. He obviously shouldn't, but the Steelers needed a quarterback. They went out and got a quarterback. They tried to groom him a little bit, but Mitch Trubisky was so bad. Another first round pick by the Bears. He was probably a better example of a team that just can't, is a perennial bad quarterback picker. I feel like that just falls on the ownership at that point. It's not even the coach. So if you want to, you got to get all levels to buy in on the process before you can just blame it on one person. Because if you're going to hire a coach and you're not going to give him uh, draft input, you're asking him to do a lot with what you picked, not with what he picked and what his coaching standards fit. For a while, it worked for Bill Belichick. It didn't towards the end. A lot of it was Tom Brady. Again, we could discuss this another day, but he was great at picking random players that you wouldn't expect to do their job at the highest level in the NFL, and they did. And we saw it years ago with the Oakland A's when they did their computer program and just picked players that, have better percentages in certain areas, even though none of them were rock star names. And, they went on a crazy like win streak for like 20 something games. So like Cam said, building it is possible with time, but every level needs to be bought in. It can't just be the coach doing it all. Everybody or the upper management doing 50%, and it's got to be a group decision all around so that the process will work properly. And that's all I'll say.
Before we jump into our NBA, Nick, I'm going to ask this question strictly for you. For all of you guys who remember and watched our other shows, we know Nick is a Knicks fan. Nick, my question to you is this. Going off of what we've been talking about these last few minutes, do you feel that in some cases the front office has too much control? As a Knicks fan, I know you all have a lot to say about that, but could you sum it up in a few words for us? What do you think? Front offices, do they have too much control?
Yes and no.
Front office also means owners.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of times where, if you're going to be an active owner, a la Mark Cuban when he was the majority owner of the Mavericks, you have to really invest in the game. You have to actually take the time to see the players and evaluate talent. Someone like James Dolan, who owns the Knicks and the Rangers, by the way. But I feel like they're not really. They pay people to do that stuff, right? And that's fine. That's part of the business, sure. But I think until they really have a firm, like, we believe in this player, we want this player, I don't think the Knicks are going to win a championship for, at least another decade. That's just my opinion. And do I think it has to do with Dolan being the owner? Yes and no. But I just think if the Knicks really want to go to that next level, the front office has to be much more engaged with the coaches and the players. But they also have to bring in someone that the players want to. I get Thibodeau is, he's been in the league a long time, and he's had success with Chicago specifically. He coached Minnesota, among other teams. He's had success in New York in terms of getting to the playoffs, but it feels like we're at a point where we need to bring in some, and I'm not saying that they should fire him today, but if it doesn't work out in the playoffs, we may want to look into bringing in a coach that the players want that will bring, like, I feel like the front office needs to be much more invested in their own product. That's just me.
Okay. Okay.
In terms of signing free agents, draft picks, whatever it is. Like, I can't remember the big major free agent signing for the Knicks, right? Cat was a trade, and Anunoby was a trade.
I think your last major
Brunson.
free agent signing
Brunson.
was a Mark Stoudemire.
Yeah, and that was 15 years ago.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Unless there was somebody else, but I think free agent signing would have been Amari Stoudemire because I
Melo
believe
was
John
a trade.
also a trade.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe they are worried about the money and renovating the garden and stuff like that. And sure, it's a business, but in terms of the on-court product, we are still leaps and bounds behind the Celtics when we shouldn't be.
Well, I'm glad you said that because we are going to transition into the NBA playoffs right now. But before we do, I will say to close out our owners conversation, you guys mentioned Mark Cuban not being a majority owner anymore. I think the next closest owner to Mark Cuban in the league is the Clippers owner Steve Ballmer. Um, his investment into that team has been phenomenal. He is at every game sitting under the basket, cheering like he's a college fan. It's a great time. He brings his kids, his grandson, friends, family. They're all under there. Great. If you have not seen the new, I think it's Intuit Dome.
Gorgeous arena.
Amazing Clipper new facility. It's not in Los Angeles anymore. I think it's in Inglewood, but it is phenomenal, and that is all on him. And he is the closest thing we have to Mark Cuban. So I will say that, and I will close out that with that. And we will move to the NBA season has officially regular season has ended, and we are now in playoff mode, ladies and gentlemen. We have our playing teams playing games this week. I believe they start Tuesday and Wednesday. We will find out who our 7 and 8 seeds are. But until then, let's start in the East. Our 1 seed is Cleveland. Our 2 seed is Boston. The Knicks in New York would be 3, Indiana 4, Milwaukee 5, Detroit 6, Orlando 7, Atlanta 8, Chicago 9, and Miami 10. Wow. I do not think this is the order that any of us had going into the season. I know myself. I gave the Knicks some love. I said they could be a 2 seed. They fell to a 3, so I'm not that disappointed in that sense. I do have some disappointments as to where some of these teams are. But, Matt, let's start with you. Eastern Conference. What do you think about 1 through 10? Is there a team in there that surprised you? Is there a team in there that I figured it would be this way? Let me know. What are your thoughts on the top 10 seeds in the East?
Um, I think we all can say Cleveland is the most shocking. I don't think anybody expected them to start or have multiple 14 win streaks in the season. They were just on fire, and they have been since. I didn't expect them to trade for Hunter, and he came from Atlanta, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I don't know what Atlanta's doing. I don't know why they had to get rid of him, but if they're just trying to build their team that way, good for them. They'll be a play-in team for as long as Trae Young's there. Anyway, Cleveland surprised me with the fact that they're a 1 seed. I can't leave them out of this, although Detroit and Orlando are both impressing me as well. Orlando's missing Jalen Suggs. He's a big part of their scoring. I think he was a Gonzaga guy.
Yes, he was.
So Orlando being a 7 seed, I mean, I think they're dangerous. Bonchero is pretty good. He's not overly consistent. He's super young. But Cade Cunningham has also been on fire for Detroit, and they're getting hot at the right time. So I think they went on a little bit of a losing skid, but I think they beat the Knicks a few days ago, if I'm not Was that a few days ago or was that like a month ago? I think they
It
won.
was a few days.
Okay, it was a few days ago. Yeah. So
Yeah, it was the 10th.
yeah, they don't have the highest scoring offense, uh, but they could be dangerous because they heated up at the right time and they got some clutch players. So that being said, those two teams impressed me, and I think it's unanimous that Cleveland is just exceeding any expectations of the season. But with all the first round picks that Orlando's had, they're finally coming to fruition here, and I don't think they'll be in the play-in tournament next year. I think they'll be a seed just outside of it in like a fifth or sixth spot.
Nice, nice. Nick, what are your thoughts? Top 10 in the East.
I agree with Matt. Cleveland. I mean, Cleveland made the playoffs, I think, 2 years in a row. So we knew that they'd be a decent team. But yeah, for them to win 64 games, I don't think anyone had that on their bingo card. Um, as Matt mentioned, they went on multiple 15-game win streaks. They also had a separate 10 or 12-game win streak as well. So when they're hot, they are one of the best teams, especially at home. 34-7 at home.
That's big.
They don't lose in Cleveland.
And they have home court because they're the one.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And of the playoff teams, they have the highest scoring offense, 122 points per game. So they could score points whether in Cleveland or away from Cleveland. And their differential is plus 9.5. That is also the highest mark in the conference. So they could also lock you up when needed.
Nick, can I interrupt you real quick?
Sure.
And Boston is 33-8 away.
Yes. I was just about to get to that.
Oh, my
You
fault.
sneaky guy. You sneaky guy. Boston, I actually was not super impressed with at home, but their away record, especially the way they can play without, because Porzingis missed a good amount of the year, Drew missed time, Jaylen Brown has been banged up. So, but their ability to score the basketball from their bench to guys like Derek White and Pritchard, who I know someone mentioned potential sixth man of the year, Peyton Pritchard. It would be well deserved. He actually had, I think, 35 points today or whatever in a meaningless game. And so they are definitely a force to be reckoned with. And if you can trust any of these teams in the East to win on the road, it would be the Celtics, or even Cleveland. So I expect that to be the conference final matchup. Though I think there is one team that could say, make a little bit of noise. I'm sure we'll get into that. But yeah, Cleveland impressed me the most, and I'll also give a shout out to Detroit. If they did lose today to Milwaukee in overtime, but if they had won today, they would have tripled their win total from last year, which is just insane. They had 15 wins last year, and this year they had 44, which is crazy. Crazy improvement.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I'm gonna go to the other way though. We're gonna talk about teams that surprised me. I'm gonna go with the opposite. I'm gonna say Philly surprised me. I didn't know they'd be this bad. When you look at their roster as it was constructed at the beginning of the season, I don't know if they would have been worse than a 2 seed in the East if they were completely committed to playing. When your best player comes out and says he's not playing in back-to-backs, I think that set the tone for the season, and it set the wrong tone. Because then you got players who came out and got hurt during the season who then decided, well, they just weren't going to play. So you could see the writing on the wall at the beginning, and I will give Tyrese Maxey all the credit in the world because I thought he had a phenomenal season after signing that huge contract. And the way their roster was constructed again was around Joel Embiid. You brought in Paul George. This was his chance to kind of maybe change the narrative a little bit. You had Kelly Oubre, who's been playing great basketball. You had Tyler Maxey, who signed a huge contract and was out to prove that he deserved it. And you had Joel Embiid on media day, who lost a ton of weight, was in great shape, and then didn't want to play back-to-backs. So I think that kind of set the wrong tone for them. And unfortunately, they were on the wrong side of everything this year, being not even in the playing games, but not even close to being in the playing games. They won 24 games this year. The last place playing team had 37. So you were 13 games behind having a playing spot. It's not so far-fetched that they would not be in the lottery Cooper Flag sweepstakes. That's how bad they were this year. In terms of Orlando, their best player got hurt and sat out about 2.5 months. I mean, that derailed their season. The fact that they're even in the playing game, I am very shocked, and I think that's kudos to them and their organization, because Paolo Banchero missed a good chunk of the season after starting off. I think he was averaging like 30-something points a game the first 5 to 8 games of the year, and Franz Wagner was playing great. Then he got hurt. His brother Mo tore his ACL, and everything just went downhill from them. So the fact that they're even a 7 seed, I'm thrilled. But I think my biggest shocker would be Detroit. Detroit basically has the same roster. It just all finally started to click. These players developed, and that is what got them a 44-38 record. Is that the best record? Not by any stretch of the imagination. Is that great for them? Yes. I'm not sure the last time Detroit was in the playoffs. I figured the next time Detroit be in the playoffs would be a playing game. They are in the playoffs, not playing in the playing game. That, to me, is the biggest shocker that I had here. We knew Cleveland could be good this year, and then when they traded for Hunter, I didn't know they'd be the 1 seed, but the fact that they're even top 2 did not surprise me after the way other things have went. I low-key love the Kyle Kuzma trade, which we will get into in a little bit, where we see Milwaukee going. But those are the things that have surprised me. Let's stay in the East, and we'll finish it. Matt, I'll start with you. Who do you got coming out of the East? What is your finals matchup, and who you got coming out?
All right. We're going to get the measuring tapes out here and measure who has the biggest. No, I'm just kidding. It's Boston versus the Lakers is what I got. The 2 most storied franchises in the NBA. I don't think the Lakers can get it done and win, but I think that it'll be that matchup.
So who do you have playing in the final matchup in the East? In the East first.
Oh.
Who's Boston playing to get to the finals?
Hold on. Do they have the bracket out right now? No. The thing is Indiana can make noise because they can score. But I think this is going to be a situation unlike the West where it's so 1 and 2 seed dominant that I think it has to be Cleveland versus Boston.
Okay.
And
Interesting.
yeah, and I think Nick brought up some great points about the home. I mean, Cleveland can win away too. They went 30-11 away. I mean, that's a great away record. And Boston wasn't too far off from home. I'm pretty sure they lost some pretty close games, and their injuries really derailed a lot of those games. So we don't really know what their full strength is for the whole season. Maybe they would have been somewhere around 68 to 70 wins as well. So, Tatum's been banged up the past couple of weeks. Porzingis, like Nick said, has been out. I think with a fully healthy Boston team, I don't think there's anybody that can really stop them. However, if they're not healthy at all, or majority of the way healthy, Cleveland can take it, but I still have Boston coming out right now
Okay.
versus
I
Cleveland.
like that.
Yeah.
I like that. I think that would be a great matchup we'd all love to see. The games this year were phenomenal. Boston and Cleveland. Nick, who do you got playing in
True.
the Eastern Conference Finals, and why?
So to clarify, the 3-6 matchup, whoever wins that, do they play the 1 seed or the 2?
The 2.
They would get the 2. Okay.
Well, hold
That
on. Let me put it this way. the NBA does do reseeding. So you have to go higher seed prevail. So if the Detroit upsets New York, then Cleveland would end up playing Detroit and not Boston.
really?
Higher seed prevails.
Higher
Yeah.
seed.
They do
Okay.
reseed?
They
I
reseed.
always get mixed up because I know some sports don't reseed.
Yeah, I believe the NBA. Let me put a little asterisk next to it. I believe the NBA does reseed.
So if that is the case, and
No, they
so I'll keep
don't.
this
They
as a
do not
hypothetical.
reseed.
They do not reseed? Okay.
No.
I thought they did.
No. The playoff bracket is set as at the start of the playoffs, which with teams playing each other based on their original seedings. The seeds are determined by teams' regular season standings. For example, the winner of 1 through 8 matchup, or the winner of the 1-8 matchup in the first round will face the winner of the 4-5 matchup in the second round, regardless of the other first round results.
Okay, so
Okay, so
they do not receive.
thank
That is
you.
my fault. We make mistakes on broadcast live too, so I
But we
will
correct them in real time. We don't wait till the next week.
correct. Continue.
No, that's fine. So okay, so now I've confirmed my picks, so that's totally fine. So my Eastern Conference Finals matchup is going to be the Boston Celtics and the Milwaukee Bucks
It's mine too. Continue.
because I have Detroit beating New York in 7.
Ooh.
I will admit it. The Knicks can't beat the Pistons in a 7-game series. I've seen what I've seen, and I have the Bucks beating the Pacers in the first round, also in 7 games. And I think the Milwaukee Bucks are my dark horse team in the East, especially with Giannis at the point guard position. That's just stupid. I think if anybody besides Boston that could beat Cleveland, it's Milwaukee. But I have Boston winning the Eastern Conference as well. No one can beat a fully healthy Boston team. That's just my opinion. But my Eastern Conference Finals is Boston, Milwaukee.
Yeah, I wanted it so bad to be Cleveland, Boston, and part of me still wishes it hopes it is. But I also have Milwaukee versus Boston. Um, like I was starting to say before, Kyle Kuzma is the difference maker to me in that series. You
Mr.
know,
Airball,
well, maybe Mr. Airball, but without Damian Lillard right now, and he's not the 1 or the 2 option, and probably not even the 3rd, to be honest, on that team. He sits well in his 4th place role. He's 3 right now with Lillard out, which actually it's interesting. I'm still taking this pick because we don't know what's going to happen with Damian Lillard. But I think Giannis is playing at such a high level. I don't see them losing to Indiana, even without home court. I predict them to take game 1, and it would not surprise me if they went back to Milwaukee 2-0 and then dropped game 3 and won game 4. I don't see them losing to Cleveland. Unfortunately, if you're Cleveland, I do think Milwaukee has a huge game. If Damian Lillard comes back, that only helps the prediction for me. And actually, I think that would switch a lot of things. But I do see Milwaukee beating Cleveland. I don't know what it is. I think Cleveland can beat any team except for Milwaukee and except for Boston. So their best interest is for Indiana to find a way. But I do have Boston coming out of the East. I think they are just too good. They brought everybody back for the most part. Porzingis has been playing great since he's been back. Looks like he's added a little more to his game too. The offense runs through him. Peyton Pritchard comes off the bench. Joey Hauser or Sam Hauser. Well, one of the Hausers come off the bench and they hit Sam Hauser. I always get them messed up. They always hit. They hit a ton of threes. Too many for my liking, but they hit them. And I just don't think anyone's constructed to beat Boston in a 7-game series. So that is my prediction for them to come out. Again, I'm not a Knicks fan, but part of me wishes that they'd come out of the East so we could see what they could actually do. But I do feel, I will go on record and say this, I do think that Tom Thibodeau is out after this year because he just did not get it done in his amount of time. I would not have been surprised if he left last year, but that was not the case. So I do see Tom Thibodeau being relieved of his duties of the New York Knicks this year. And to be honest with you, I see them going to the Eastern Conference Finals next year without him as a coach. But we will get to those predictions next time. Let's go to the loaded Western Conference. Nicholas, the West was loaded this year, 1 through 10. Oklahoma City, Houston, Lakers, Denver, Clippers, Minnesota, Golden State, Memphis, Sacramento, and Dallas. I will say this before we start. I want to make sure I say this. I think the most intriguing first round matchup in this is the Lakers versus the Minnesota Grizzlies. But I will get into that when it's my time. Nick, talk to me. 1 through 10. What's going on in the West? Who you got?
The Wild Wild West. The Wild Wild West. I used to live downtown.
The Wild Wild West. Okay, continue.
Oh my, the high notes, baby. High notes.
We got American Idol on the podcast.
Busted Coverage Got Talent. Speaking of high, let's look at that winning percentage of the Oklahoma City Thunder. 68-14. League's best record this year by 4 games. SGA, MVP. It's his time. They have been the most consistent team in the NBA, not named the... Actually, no, I'd probably say they are the most consistent team because Boston's missed a bunch of players, so we don't really know their true potential yet. And I think Cleveland's just been on a crazy streak. And yet Cleveland's 4 games back of Oklahoma City. So I think it's Oklahoma City's conference to lose for sure. I think they match up well with every team that's available. One team that I think could make some noise, if they had avoided the play-in, I would have said Golden State is the team to watch. I wouldn't want to play them right now. I think Houston might be a little too young, even though they got a lot of great players, and they're going to be really, really good next year. You never doubt LeBron and Luka, right? The superstars, Jokic, Kawhi. This one's. I feel like this one's harder to predict than the East for me. I think
You
the
have a
play-in
lot of
teams will
matchup
be.
that could be a conference matchup. That's why.
Yeah, because even like Golden State and Memphis are going to play in the play-in game for number 7. Whoever wins that plays Houston. I think Golden State or Memphis can beat Houston. But I don't think the 8 seed beats OKC. So, trying to think here. LA and Minnesota. That'll be fun. For sure. Luka and Ant-Man. Whew.
Luka will
Yes,
beat that
please.
team by himself.
Hey, we're here for it. I would love to see it. I would love to see the Lakers go just because of how dirty Luka did by Nico Harrison. I think it would just be poetic justice, but I don't think it's going to happen. If I was looking at this right now, I would say the conference finals for the West will be OKC and then some combination of either Golden State or possible. Well, actually, no, because the 4-5 plays the 1 seed, so we could see Denver and OKC in the second round.
Yep.
So, or the Clippers and OKC. That would be an interesting matchup too. So, it could actually the Lakers could make the conference finals depending on although they get Minnesota. I think you know what? I'm going to go out on a limb here. Whoever wins the Lakers Minnesota series will go to the finals. There's my take. Just because I think the OKC, like if they play either Denver or the Clippers, like that's probably going to go 6 or 7 games. OKC could potentially play Golden State. You don't want to see Steph in playoff Jimmy. Like they're going to give them a run, and I just think they'll run out of steam. I
Well,
think
we're putting your
the
foot to the fire. We want to know who's in the West.
I know, I know.
I have mine written
Um,
down, so I want to hear what you say.
uh, um. All right, so I I don't know, man. All right, screw it. I'm gonna take Minnesota.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna take Minnesota.
So you have
I think
OKC versus Minnesota.
I think it's who I think. um, I don't think the Nuggets go just because of everything that's going on with the coach and GM thing. So I think second round will be OKC and the Clippers. Trying to think how that would match up there. You know what? All right, here's my. I'm gonna say the Clippers and the Timberwolves
Okay.
in the West, and I'm gonna take Minnesota. I know that sounds crazy, but I just think their path to me is the easiest.
Okay. I like it.
But I would not. But again, I'm rooting for Luca because I just want to see it happen. But I'm a Ant Man be doing something. So I'm gonna say Minnesota, and then I think Boston repeats. But I know we'll get there. But that's my take.
Matt, I know there's no one driving the Luca train better than you, but make it official. Who you got in the West and tell us why.
The Lakers. Last year we saw Luka. I mean, Kyrie was on the team. I can't just say it's by himself, but he really does lead the train here. When it comes to playoff time, when he's the second highest playoff scoring average since Michael Jordan. We got um, Lakers versus Minnesota last year. Luka uh, kicked out the Clippers, then he kicked out Minnesota, then he kicked out OKC with the Dallas team that nobody expected to make it past the first or second round. This year he's got LeBron, Austin Reed. I mean, it's just an offensive scoring juggernaut. We've seen Minnesota this year have really streaky offensive games where they just can't make a basket. It is somewhat the case with the fact that, Luca and LeBron and Austin Reeves aren't really pure shooters. They'll make their own, they'll find a way to get points. But when you're talking about like high percentage shooters, Austin Reeves is playing out of his mind recently, but historically he's not great everywhere from the field. And that's the same with LeBron, who used to be such a high volume 3-point shooter. Thank God he took that down as a Laker fan here. And Luca, who takes high volume threes, and when he's on fire, he's absolutely on fire, and the whole team plays to that standard. But when he's cold, it's like you're getting blown out by 16 points. Now let me get to my point here of why I think the Lakers can beat OKC. Number one, they beat them. They played them twice in a week within the past. I think it was the last in April. Yeah, it was in April. They killed OKC 126-99. When Luca got charged with, they played again this past on the day after my birthday on Tuesday, and I'm trying to find out when it was in the game, but it was like early to mid fourth quarter, and Luca was chirping at a fan, and the ref thought that he was talking to him, and he gave him his second technical, and the game was tied. Or no, the Lakers were up two, up one. Sorry, they were up one. SGA makes the free throw, and then it was all she wrote from there. But up until that point, with Luca on the floor, they don't have anybody on their team that can guard him. Lou Dort isn't going to do it. Shea Gilgeous, who's an underrated defender, isn't going to do it. When you have to guard LeBron and Luca, when you have three guys that can create their own opportunity, that's very hard to guard. On top of that, they have Dorian Finney-Smith and they have Rui Hachimura, who can just sit in the wing and score three-pointers from there. So Jackson Hayes has really stepped up. I just don't think that anybody's going to get past. There are matchups like Golden State, who we mentioned, and Memphis actually that I'd be nervous about if I'm a Laker. If I'm the Lakers, just because those two teams can score like crazy. But Other than that, I don't see any other team going through. I mean, Luka completely embarrassed Nico Harrison already. I mean, he was tribute to him was beautiful. He cried during the whole thing and then went off for 45 points. Yeah, I don't think there's anybody stopping Luka from getting the finals.
And who are they playing?
Boston.
No, Western
Oh.
Finals.
Nick brought up a pretty good point when we're talking like the Clippers are a real dangerous team. But I think it's going to be either Lakers versus Clippers or Lakers versus OKC. I'm going to lean on the Clippers. So I'll do
Okay.
a battle of LA.
Interesting. I like it. I'm gonna go a little differently, and I'm gonna have everybody look at the play-in teams. 7, 8 is Memphis. 9, 10 is Sacramento, Dallas. I'm going to go on a limb and assume Golden State will win their first round. So here's where I get a little interesting because my finals matchup is OKC versus Golden State. I got Golden State beating Houston, who they would play in the first round. And then their second round matchup would be the Lakers or Minnesota. I am very high on Anthony Edwards. We have watched him beat OKC twice this year when they're down 15 plus points and bring them back and win. We have watched him go off against teams this year. I think that they will lose to the Lakers, unfortunately. I think Luka is just too much for them. But I will tell you this, I do not have the Lakers beating the Golden State Warriors in the second round. I do not think they have enough offense.
You there, Cam?
Do you hear me?
Yeah, you cut out.
Oh, sorry.
You
The
said
Lakers cannot guard
you said they don't have enough offense, and that's where it left off.
the Warriors. We saw Brzezinski come in and just light their tails up. Steph, they ISO'd Luka the whole game and made him decide to try and play defense. It's not that he can't play defense. It's just they ISO'd him on whoever the ball handler was. And it was either a foul or a step in three, or Steph went right around him, or they made him run off screens. I think Luka will be too tired in that series come game 4, 5, and 6 after chasing Steph on switches to be to get them over the hump. And like I've said all year, LeBron is not a consistent three-point shooting team. The Lakers will go as far as their defense, rebounding, and three-point shooting takes them. LeBron scores 30, Luka scores 30, LeBron scores 40, Luka scores 40. You still need another, 40 points? That's 80. You need to get to at least 120, 125 to win these games, or at least be able to score that. So for that reason, I'm going with my finals as OKC versus Golden State, and I got OKC coming out, SGA. Hopefully our MVP this year. I think this is their time. I think that they're focused. Their players don't do any more than they need to do. Even when they don't shoot the three well, which it seems like they always do, they find other ways to score. And they've got about 30 fouls between some of their players to use on Luka and LeBron. And they're a fast-paced team. Again, it's going to come down to speed, talent, and scoring. And if you don't put up 120 points against them, you do not have a shot to win. So I got OKC. I think that would be a phenomenal shootout between him and Curry. Honestly, I feel it could be a coin flip. I think Jimmy Butler really changes that team, and an SGA versus Jimmy Butler game will be hilarious. So that's just me. That's who I got. I'm gonna kick off the last part of this and say my NBA champion is Boston. I think they have the experience. My player to watch, however, will be SGA. I think he will outplay Jason Tatum, but obviously Tatum will get the MVP this year in the NBA championship MVP against the OKC Thunder, and then they make a huge trade over the summer. That's just me. Nick, who's your NBA champion? Who they playing, and who's your player to watch?
So I am also taking the Boston Celtics. I did pick Minnesota Since I said it, I will stick with it, even though I don't really feel completely confident about it. But since I said it, I will take it. Um, Player to watch in that series. I'm gonna go with the unsung MVP of the Boston Celtics, and I'm gonna say the Finals MVP will be Kristaps Porzingis
Ooh, interesting.
because I think
Interesting.
he will. And you know what, Rudy Gobert on Porzingis, I think that'll actually be a fun matchup, right? Gobert's a three-time Defensive Player of the Year, but has he really guarded anyone like Porzingis? I don't know. So we'll
Oh,
find out.
that'll be fun. That'll be fun because he'll be on the perimeter the whole time. So
Right, and
that'd
I
be an
think
interesting.
Porzingis can cook him.
Well, I think personally, I think in that series you see more Nas Reed than you do Rudy Gobert. But again, that's
Yeah.
just my opinion. This is your get. Um, Matt, explain yourself. Luka Doncic and the Lakers versus the Boston Celtics. Who you got and who's our player to watch?
I'm going to take this, and this is going to be a very hot take here. I don't know if anybody's ever going to pick this, but I got Boston winning, but I have Luka winning the Finals MVP.
Ooh, I don't think that's happened in like 50 to 60 years.
Yep.
If it's happened, I don't think it's happened in a
If he
long time.
continues the scoring that he's doing right now, the only thing that concerns me, and you had brought this up in your last point about Golden State, because it's going to be Boston doing the same thing, is ISO ball on Luka's defense. They'd have to figure out some way to either, and you can't play zone against Boston because they'll just kill you with the three.
Yeah.
So unless you're swarming because you can play a zone, but it's got to be all exterior and one down low. Because Kristaps Porzingis isn't going to be putting you on the block. He's going to be sitting outside the 3-point arc too. So you could theoretically play a zone so that you're filling gaps in that sense. But as long as he plays, he's healthy and he's plays as he's been doing these past like 2-3 weeks. I don't think anybody there's too much to go around in Boston to pull an MVP off that team, which is why I'm going the opposite way.
Yeah, that'll be. I will say this: I like Luka Doncic. I do not like him as a Laker. I want to throw that out there. I wish he was still a Dallas Maverick. But I think that would be a very intriguing matchup to see what the Lakers do versus the Boston Celtics because Kristaps has been playing on this cloud nine level recently. That would be very interesting to see. But that all kicks off on Tuesday night. We have our playing games. East and West, I believe, one plays 7-8 play and then 9-10 play, and then we will go from there. So we get to start the playoffs this week, and we will see if our bets are correct.
Can I make two quick comments before we
No,
transition?
because I don't like you. Yes, you can. Go for
Okay,
it.
that's duly noted, Cam. No, yeah. So there's one East playing game. Both 7-8s are Tuesday night.
Yes.
Yeah, and then I actually did look up if it's ever happened that a NBA Finals MVP was on the losing side. It has happened one time in NBA history.
Was it Dr. J?
No, it was Jerry West
Jerry
of
West.
the
That's it.
Lakers against the Celtics.
Whoa, that was unintentional. Wow.
You may need to
And
make
what's
that
crazy
bet.
is in 1969, and it was the first time they ever awarded a Finals MVP award, and it was to
Wow.
Jerry West. The Celtics won that series.
Wow.
Matt, if you get your Celtics Lakers matchup, you may want to take that as a bet.
I'll consider.
That Luka or LeBron. My guess would
Not
honestly
LeBron.
probably be.
Not LeBron. It's not.
I
No.
will be honest. My guess will probably be one of those two would win the MVP. Um,
If
in that
let's
series.
just say the Lakers managed to win and Luka averages 32 and LeBron averages 25 and LeBron wins Finals MVP, I won't watch the
Oh,
NBA again.
Well,
I
if
just don't do it.
LeBron wins it, it's because there'll be like a crazy triple double. But if Luka's averaging 32, he will not win the MVP. He will not lose the MVP to LeBron.
Yeah.
He will get because that
Yeah.
will be the storyline to rub it in the Mavericks' face.
Yeah.
Yep.
But we are moving on because we're not trying to be here all night. We all have work in the morning. And this next topic could take a little bit because let's be honest, we're going to talk GOATs. And everybody's got their opinion as to who the GOAT is. Now, for those of you who obviously did not know we were going to talk about this, our GOAT conversation is going to be greatest of all time. However, it's who you would consider your GOAT. And we're going to look at obviously their championships, but their impact on the sport and its reach also. So we have to take all that into consideration when we're talking about sport. It may not be they have the most championships. They could have one, but if their impact was great and you want to justify it, go for it. And that's how we're going to get our conversation started today. I literally did a coin flip as who I was going to start with. So, Nick, I'm going to ask you who your top 5 are and give us a few honorable mentions. Who are your top 5 greatest of all time in any sport, but what is your order? From 5 to 1.
Okay. So after much consideration, I do have 5 and I have one honorable mention.
Okay.
So, the first honorable mention, well, actually no, the only honorable mention I have, I put Amanda Nunes as an honorable mention, the MMA fighter.
Okay.
She's the greatest female MMA fighter of all time. And I think really with like Ronda Rousey was kind of the like kind of trailblazer behind women's mixed martial arts.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, when you think of women's MMA, you think of her, Amanda Nunes. She's the most successful female fighter I feel like ever. So I put her as my honorable mention. So shout out Amanda Nunes. All right, number 5. I picked Tiger Woods at number 5.
Oh, I have an
Okay.
issue with that. We could talk about that later.
I know I couldn't think of anyone, but I was thinking of someone in terms of dominance, impact on their sport, and their story.
Okay.
Um,
Good. Good.
so I try to combine as many of those things as possible, and you know, Tiger Woods is considered by many to be one of the greatest golfers. It's
Okay.
up to debate between him and Jack Nicklaus if he's the greatest golfer, but combining just how successful he was and how he was the face of the sport, and then it all came crashing down because of his own demons and his own actions. But then to come back, and when he won the Masters a few years ago, to me it was one of the great comebacks in recent history in sports. And for that reason, I have him at 5, though it was kind of tough to put him in there because there was a lot of other people that I had to forget or forego. But I have Tiger Woods at 5. Um, Number 4, I put Usain Bolt at 4. Um,
Okay.
and I know I'm trying to think of. I think my top 3 are pretty good. Maybe I don't know, but Usain Bolt holds the world record in the 1 and the 200-meter dash. He just came in like a lightning bolt, you know. Um, and also, he won in '08. He won in 2012. He won in 2016. He had sustained success. He's an iconic name in track and field. And a lot of people, if you were to ask people about sprinting, they're going to say the name Usain Bolt. So
Mm-hmm.
for that reason, I picked him to be number 4. And plus, he has 2 world records that still stand today.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Number 3, I'm going to go with another Olympian. I picked Michael Phelps at number 3. He has like 20 something gold medals. I believe, in my opinion, he is the GOAT swimmer, male or female. When you think of swimming, you think of Michael Phelps. And being in that upper echelon of Olympians, competing against people all around the world, and again, sustained success. 2004, 2008, 2012, like he was just dominant. Him in his prime, he was unstoppable. Um, and another guy had a little bit of controversy, right, with the whole bong thing, and to have to overcome that adversity. So for that reason, I put him at number 3. My top 2, I felt like are pretty hard to dispute. Number 2, I put Pele, the soccer player, because he started it all, in my opinion. Without Pele, there's no Diego Maradona, there's no Zinedine Zidane, there's no David Beckham, there's no Lionel Messi, there's no Cristiano Ronaldo, Thierry Henry, you name them, they all mention Pele. Uh, Pele's the guy. Pele's the man. So I picked him at 2, and then number 1, I took the greatest, Muhammad Ali. Because enough said.
Interesting. I like it. I like your list. I really do. Actually, we've got a few of the same names on the list. I'm not even gonna lie. I like your list. Some in different
Yeah,
orders.
it took a lot to go through, but so
I just want to reiterate for people listening, this is our list of who we consider to be the greatest of all time in any sport. Just our top 5s with some honorable mentions. Matt, who's your top 5? Who are some honorable mentions?
I have a bunch of honorable mentions. I'm just
All
gonna
right,
just
throw
run
some
through them
out.
quick. I'm gonna I'm just gonna read the names. I'm not gonna put any explanation to it.
That's fine.
I got Wayne Gretzky, Diana Taurasi, Usain Bolt, and Ronaldinho.
Okay.
No particular order on those because I really couldn't put thought to it. I mean, this list is already hard enough to put together. Number 5 is Nick's number 1, Muhammad Ali, on my list. And number
Alrighty.
4, I have Serena Williams.
Ooh.
And the reason being, her impact on women's tennis and women's sports in general was just so immense and sort of showed that there's a catalyst that you could change what was typically an all white sport into accepting colored athletes, as well as their grind through a coach that didn't really even want to take the time to even watch them try out into creating the best women's tennis player of all time. And not only one, but her sister Venus is very good as well. So just that sort of impact, and I, I'll try to pull 23 Grand Slam single titles, 14 doubles titles with her sister Venus. I mean, I don't know if we're going to see that again. Number 3, I have Tom Brady. I think the comeback versus the Falcons was sort of what sealed the deal on this, although he did win against the Bucks against Patrick Mahomes in it with a brand new team at the age, was he 41 or 40, Nick, when he won with the Bucks?
I think he was 41.
Okay. So at that age to still win and win at the highest level, and he has 7 total championships, which is more than any other NFL player. So to get 7 and to be, he went to 10 or 11. I think 10. He's the greatest football player to ever play. We got to have at least one football player on this list. Tom Brady is the winningest player. He defines the position of what you want as a quarterback. Just somebody that's gonna motivate the team, get them through. Everybody, if you don't like them, you at least respect them, and that's it. Number 2, I got Michael Phelps. Just somebody that I idolized growing up. This is more of a personal preference with his 20 plus gold medals and umpteen times we saw him in the Olympics. I mean, the guy was just a killer, and love competing for the country. And it was a pleasure to be able to watch most of his events. And I haven't seen a better swimmer. And I have swam. I swam for a short period of time in high school, and it's not easy at all. You use literally every fiber of your muscle to, especially for his relay of butterfly, you use every fiber of your muscle, and to be able to do that at the highest level for as many years as he did it and win that many gold medals, it just is beyond impressive. And number one, I have Michael Jordan. And funny enough, I was going to put LeBron there only because of his longevity and the fact that he has been playing at an absolutely star level from the beginning of his career and fresh out of high school through 40 years old and still playing at a high level. However, I think Michael Jordan takes number one because he was 6-0 in the finals, number one, and number two, the impact of not only his shoes, but the fact that people that never watched him play, the first thing, I guess it would, uh, not only the fashion, but when you think of Michael Jordan, you also think of Kobe. If he didn't see Michael Jordan, he might have seen Kobe. Kobe was like a carbon copy of Michael Jordan. He wanted to be everything Michael Jordan was. You see LeBron James honoring Michael Jordan by wearing his number 23. The impact not only on just the community with the Jordans and that being the most popular shoe, and the fact that not only do NBA players now have Nike deals, but they're also on the Jordan bandwagon, such as Luka, such as Jason Tatum. Rui Hachimura has a deal with Jordan. It's just he's impacting more than just players at this point. He's also impacting. I have 2 pairs of Jordans. If you want to count my Luka shoes, I have 4 pairs of Jordans. I've had Jordans in the past. So the fact that he had a 63-point playoff game. He never lost in the finals, never even let it get to a game 7. Uh, Biggest basketball killer you can imagine, and he did it in multiple sports. He played baseball, which is arguably one of the hardest sports to play, hitting the baseball. Not saying that he did it at an extremely high level. He did make it to the pros. So that being said, that takes some sort of athletic talent in that aspect. So if we're talking about athletes, I think Michael Jordan's going to be up there at number one in my opinion. Go ahead, Cam. You're on mute, by the way. Yep. I mean,
Sorry,
yeah, I was gonna say
sorry,
I'll
I
keep
was talking.
going.
No, I was listening to you and I started talking. Forgot I was on mute because I had to blow my nose. Um, no, we actually have a lot of the same lists. I'm actually surprised all three of you, or all three of us, um, have a lot of the same names. It's pretty cool. But I'm sure we got there different ways. My list, I have a lot of honorable mentions because obviously I was trying to put them in order. But for a record for people, some of the names on my list, I am a little older than Matt and a little older than Nick. Um, so my list and my honorable mentions are there because kind of comes from a different time where we didn't have as much social media. So when you heard about somebody for being good, it was word of mouth. But then when you saw it, that's all you got to see. So I think those lasting memories always stuck with me. So my honorable mentions: Allison Felix, one of our best female track athletes ever. David Beckham, maybe not so much for the numbers he's put in, but his reach and getting a whole generation of kids like Pele to start playing soccer in America, huge. You know, he's more than just the guy who married a Spice Girl. Michael Johnson, track and field. We wouldn't have a lot of our athletes doing it if it wasn't for him. Every kid can run around the track in gym class and thinks it's easy until they do it. This guy did it in the world record fastest time at that time and has inspired a bunch of young guys. And his shoes were amazing. If anybody did track and field, I had a few pairs. I had Tom Brady and LeBron James both on my honorable mention list. These are two who could be considered GOATs in the game, are on my honorable mention list. And with that said, my number 5, I have Pele. Like David Beckham, but obviously better. There is no bigger person to start soccer, and I'm going to say soccer so I can distinguish, in America outside of Pele. He did not play here, but you could not find somebody who knew what soccer was who did not know who Pele was. I never saw this guy play in my life until I think I was in high school, and he had been retired for years. Because we finally had YouTube and some stuff like that starting to come up, and that was the first time I ever saw Pele. And I had played soccer growing up. I've heard his name, but never saw him. Pele is to me at number 5. Michael Phelps is my number 4. The greatest Olympian you can make an argument of all time in any country, anywhere in the world. Michael Phelps. Carl Lewis is number 3. I was debating on Usain Bolt, but then I decided to go with Carl Lewis. I'm not going to lie. Carl Lewis did 3 out of 4 of the same events that Usain Bolt did. But the difference I'm giving Carl Lewis is Carl Lewis did the long jump and was really good at that too, where he's got gold medals in the Olympics and that. So the fact that he got 2 gold medals in separate events, field and running, I'm giving it to Carl Lewis. I think Carl Lewis inspired me to do track. I know he's inspired a lot of other people, long jumpers, sprinters. Usain Bolt's times are amazing, but there's no Usain Bolt without the people that came before him, and there's none of them without Carl Lewis. So to me, Carl Lewis is number 3. Muhammad Ali is my second one. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. I don't know that as an African American, we've had too many people who've been more impactful than Muhammad Ali. And his accolades in the boxing ring are multiple. There's so many. I was going through it and I was like, well, I can put him somewhere. I really couldn't do that. There's too many to list. I have them listed, but I'm not even going to say them. I think the name alone goes for itself. Cassius Clay. And my number 1 is Michael Jordan. And I'm going to say Michael Jordan only because the difference I think I had with him that I had the difference with Muhammad Ali is Muhammad Ali did boxing, which was fine. Great. But it's an acquired taste. If you take his humanitarianism, then that would be the equivalent of what Michael Jordan did. But Michael Jordan touched a generation of people who, at this point, will have never seen him play. Muhammad Ali did too. But for Michael Jordan, it was all ages. It goes straight down, and as corny as this may sound, making Space Jam to where little kids know who he is, to going all the way up to adults watching him. He has not touched a basketball in a game since April 23rd, 2003. There's a generation of kids who've never seen him play who are wearing his shoes, watching his movies, saying he's arguably could be the best player to ever play, and they've never seen it. If that does not give you GOAT status, I do not know what does. Obviously, there have been players in all sports who have won more championships, been to more finals, but their impact on the game has not been like his has. And you have people in other sports calling him the greatest of all time. His killer instinct, his business savvy, it is unparalleled. So to me, Michael Jordan's my first. Now, we're going to try this and see if it works. If we get too upset with each other, we're going to stop. But let's see. Is there a way you guys think that we could come up with a top 5 within the 5 that we said? I know we have some people. Who do you think we would have at 5 on our list? Nick, give me a name.
Well, I'm just trying to think of like commonalities that we have.
So the commonalities would be Muhammad Ali, Michael Phelps.
Yep.
And that's it.
Okay, so I would say at 5, if we're making a combined list,
Yeah.
I would put Phelps at 5.
Matt, what do you think?
The other one was Ali.
Well, those are our commonalities. So yeah, commonalities would probably go.
I'm okay with switching Phelps to 5, but I want to see who we agree at for 4 and 3 before we do that. I know I had Phelps at 2, but again, a lot of these players could have been swapped. I
Yeah,
mean, they're just
that's
great.
fair.
Right.
Yeah, it's a hard list to do when you're talking about every sport.
So let me ask you guys this question. I personally think Ali will need to be a little higher than 4. Is there a player? Do you think he should be at 4, or is there a player you heard on another list that you said, "Oh, you know what? I think they do. They should be on the list." Because I saw one, and I'll throw mine out there. As much as I would have loved to say Tiger Woods, I do think that in terms of reach, I think 4 should go to Serena Williams or Pele. Nick,
Yo,
Serena Williams, Pele, or Muhammad Ali? 4. Or
Ali's got to be higher than 4.
that's what I'm saying.
I'll put Pele at 4.
Can we agree that
Matt, what do you
Ali's
think?
2?
What do you say?
Can we just agree that Ali's 2?
I mean, I'm okay with. He was my 2, but I don't know. Nick, what do you think?
Um, Ali at 2. Who would be 1? Jordan?
Well,
Well,
we both had
we
Jordan, but if you think, like I said, Ali was my 2. So for me, 1 and 2, I could swap, but I understand both arguments on that one. To me, it would
And
just
then
be in terms
Serena
of
would
making
be
this.
3.
No, I had Serena at 4.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
didn't
I mean,
decide any of that ones.
I mean, as much as I don't know if Serena had much as an international sports impact as Pele did, in my opinion.
Okay, we don't have to put her
So
on.
I could see Serena at 4.
Okay.
Um,
If you have a completely different player that you'd like to argue at 4 than the 2 that Cam said, please do.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, I'm just trying to go off of like my list. That's the thing, though. Over Jordan, you can't really put. I don't. You can't really put Bolt over Jordan. I don't think.
Did you even have Jordan on your list?
No.
Usain Bolt was my 4.
Did you have Jordan on your list at all?
No,
No. That's fair. I mean, it's a consideration who we consider. Nick didn't have any basketball players, which is fine.
I also had Jackie Robinson as an honorable mention, but
Yeah, that was strictly impact.
yeah,
So,
Their baseball wouldn't be the same today if he wasn't a player.
yeah. Um,
I would have said
hmm.
Barry Bonds as an honorable mention too, but I sort of went a different
I
direction.
also had Kurt Angle as an honorable mention.
He was 30.
He
well,
won a gold medal with a broken neck.
Yep.
what do we feel about 4?
For wait, did we put Phelps at 5?
Yeah.
Yes.
Could we agree that Serena's 5 and move up Phelps?
I'm okay with
I
that.
could. I'd be okay with that. You want to do that?
I'd be okay with that.
So
Okay.
we'll move Phelps to 5. I mean to 4. Serena to 5. And who
Yeah,
do we have at 3?
probably Pele or Ali at 3. Actually, Pele at 3 probably, and I
Nick, what
would
do you think?
say Ali Jordan's 1A 1B.
Okay, I could do that. What do you think, Nick?
Nick just answered.
That was
I
me.
mean, Matt, what do you think?
What did Nick just say? He said Ali and Jordan are 1A, 1B.
Yeah, so we take away 2 and we just have a 1A and 1B.
Okay.
The way loophole.
And then Pele's 3rd.
Yeah. What do you think? Did your mic cut out, Matt?
No, I'm thinking because I don't think Pele's even the best soccer player.
Well, don't forget, he may not have been the best soccer player. It's also impact on the game, which is why this is going to be a good debate a little bit because, again, like I mentioned, you're a lot younger, so you're growing up in an age of social media also, to where you have had access to more players. years ago, the only way to hear about somebody was literally to hear about them. If they were really good, you heard about them. If people were okay or doing great things, it had to be great to hear about them. Someone mediocre, sorry to say, or someone who's okay or doing decent, we'll hear about everything they do, and they may get more hype than they're worth. But back then, if you were good, we heard about you even though we never saw you. So I'm okay. Let me ask, if you took Pele off, who would you put on ahead of him?
I would put Ronaldinho. If we're talking players of that caliber and we're going to put a soccer player in there, because social media does have an impact on it, even though we're putting Jordan at number one and he wasn't in an era with social media. If we're talking
That's
social media of all aspects, LeBron has been crucified on social media his entire career, and he's still putting up numbers like crazy. Like you could argue any player that is in a GOAT debate up there at in these positions. But
well, and that's
Ronaldinho as a player, I think he's better, and I think he's touched like yeah. I don't know where you're coming from with the fact that you wouldn't know who Ronaldinho was without social media because I don't think that's true.
I didn't say that. I did not say that.
Can you reinstate your point then so that I can try to grasp it?
What I was saying was, in an era before social media, the only way to hear about somebody was word of mouth. We did not have social media. So if we heard about you, you were really good because that was the only way to hear about somebody was word of mouth. What I'm saying today is anybody and their mother, and I do know who Ronaldinho is, can be on social media and you can have great highlights and have a lot of fans and not have as many as someone who's really good and doesn't have the same amount of fans. To me, social media is potentially a numbers game. We don't know exactly why people follow people for whatever reason. We hope they're fans, but it's not always the case. I'm not using social media to make my argument, which is what I am saying. I'm using straight up skill and what I've seen, and I'm using the impact reach. I'm saying Pele has had a greater impact reach than Ronaldinho has. In this country, one where we don't watch soccer as a primary top five sport, that would be my argument. I'm not saying Ronaldinho's not good. I'm not saying any of that. I enjoy watching him play. But what I'm saying is that the impact he has not been as great as Pele.
I disagree with that.
And that was my second point was you were younger than I am. So naturally that would not be a comment and something you would say, which was some reason we want to have the conversation so people can push back and say and state what they want. The
So
same way you and Tommy were talking the other day, and Tommy said, I know you're gonna put Pele. I said, you're damn right I am. And the very fact that you knew who I was gonna pick makes my point. You knew who it was. The same way Ronaldinho knows who it was and compliments Pele for him being where he is today, which is why I made my argument. But continue.
my sorry, I just had to let my dog out of the room. He just ran into the wall. He's blind. Um, the thing is nobody's really copying Pele in terms of play style these days. It like I would say people are leaning more towards Messi, but Messi kind of has a similar play style as Ronaldinho with his technical dribbling and whatnot. And being able to have like an impact, and yes, social media helps, but being able to have an impact and have people watching you and wanting to be you, I'm not seeing that from Pele. I'm seeing that from Ronaldinho, and maybe that's a generational gap that you're talking about. But
Which it
Pel
is.
yeah, the Ronaldinho inspired a bigger generation of players and fans with how crazy he was in terms of dribbling the basketball, dribbling the soccer ball, and being able to create offense in all aspects rather than just being a pure scorer like Pele was. And that is my argument towards it. I feel like he was more of a team guy, and he had all the technical skills down to a T, and more players now are mimicking Ronaldinho's skills versus Pele's. Where everyone in basketball, for example, I don't know anybody that's trying to be like LeBron. Everyone wants to be like Jordan or Kobe.
No, and like I said, basketball wise, I will agree. I will say this: soccer has changed drastically through the years. It's not the same as when I played as it is now. People get bigger, faster, stronger, more athletic. When Pele played, that's what the goal was. The goal was to score. There was no flash. You didn't need flash to do anything. You still don't now, to an extent, but you don't need it. That is part of who Ronaldinho is. It was the next generation of player that almost, I would say, a 2.0 upgrade. And that is the generation that has been watching. So someone who was not as exciting years ago is the start of it. And what we see now is we see players being able to do what Messi does, Ronaldinho does, and they have the names that we're going at.
But then you
But
can say that, like,
but but
I'll let you
my
finish.
argument back to you is this: if we did not watch Pele, we probably aren't watching Ronaldinho because we don't care.
Um,
Now there are other players in between, but again, if we're not watching Pele, we may not be watching those other players too.
Pele to me in basketball terms is like Wilt.
But you can go back and say people complimented Wilt and said
People
Wilt
did,
before Jordan was probably the greatest player to ever play.
but I think it was unanimous after the fact that Jordan was the greatest.
But let me ask you this question, and this is my last question I'll push back on, because obviously we could be here all night talking this, and we have a few more categories to get to. Is I lost my thought. Oh, here we go. When is the last time Ronaldinho picked up a soccer ball, roughly?
I can't answer that question.
I know I can't answer it either. I didn't look it up because I didn't have it on my list. But I will say this: there was a game. I think it was when the Thunder played the Warriors played in the finals. Ronaldinho was at the game. Obviously, everybody knew who he was,
Hmm.
and he wasn't that far off from having played in the game. Pele had, well, I think Pele is he still alive? I thought I saw an article he passed away. Let's say he's alive. I don't remember. I didn't check this. He hasn't touched the ball since before you were born. And he still has an impact on that. To me, that is why I gave him the nod over any other soccer player. Are kids wearing Pele jerseys here? No, because in America we probably aren't sure who he is. Are Brazilians yeah. Do people know who Pele is? Yes. Was he boring? No. Is he boring compared to players now? Probably. Do you grow up saying I want to be like Pele? Not anymore. Because you have bigger, faster, stronger players or more exciting players. And then social media lets you see more exciting players around the world, which we
Yeah,
didn't have
but
before.
social media is going to saturate it with Messi. He's going to saturate it with Ronaldo, since those are more current players. Ronaldinho, I mean, is still argued by even current soccer players as the best.
But we still saw Ronaldinho play. That's
But
that's where I'm going to.
you could pull the tape from Pele.
Tape, you could. It's black and white. You're right. We could pull the tape from Pele. And like Wilt, we would see a player beyond his years.
Yeah, but
And that is, but
but my
it's not
point is
just.
when you put a player that's beyond his years in a game, that's why Michael Jordan is identified as the best, is because he was in a time where there was no definitive, like he had the bad boy Pistons, he had the Boston Celtics. Yeah, it might have been a slightly down year, but he had a lot of competition in his basketball class, and it continued to keep going after the fact through Kobe's and through LeBron's. There's just been all-star after all-star. It's not like back in the day where you could run through the whole team and score. Yeah, you were a great player, but at some point, if all you're doing is scoring, when Ronaldinho is doing all the facets of soccer, I feel like he is better and should be on the list higher than Pele. That's my opinion. We don't even have to have these two in the top 5, but
No, we don't. We can move them out if we feel there's somebody else who's
but
had
you
a
got to
better
have a
impact.
complete game. Like Michael Jordan, he could score, he could defend, he won Defensive Players of the Year, he won scoring titles, he did it all. He won a dunk contest. Not that that has anything to do with this list. It's just
But
he did it all.
But if we're going to say a complete game and we're looking at a sport or an activity, then we wouldn't be able to put Usain Bolt in there because Usain Bolt only ran the 1 and the 2. He only did the track events. He didn't do any field events.
Oh, then
So
I'd agree with you.
any athlete then who turned around in track and field and did at least 2 events, even if you got a bronze medal, you'd be better than Usain Bolt because you are more versatile. I don't think it's always the versatility. I think, like I said, the give and take on some of these events or some of these sports is the impact and the reach. If we can't look at the scoring and we're arguing on the impact and reach, that's what we want. It just comes down to crossing our T's and dotting our I's. If we can't agree, then let's just move him off and see if there's somebody we can agree on.
That's
If we
fine.
can't agree to move him off, then this is the debate that we will have to maybe table till next week and skip him and go to 1 and 2, unless we really just don't believe you should be on. Nick, I want you to chime in on this. What do you think based off of what you heard? And this will probably be
I
the
think
longest episode of Busted Coverage.
I think number one is Stone Cold Steve Austin. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
It's tough because like Ronaldinho, as great of a player as he was, and same thing with Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi, and even people like David Beckham and Andrea Pirlo, the Italian, right? So there's great footballers and dribblers and scorers, but to me, without Pele and Diego Maradona, I don't think you have any of those players. And I know they're old and things like that, but I just think Pele's impact on the globalization of football, soccer. Um, I mean, I could see why he would not be in the top 5 in a lot of people's minds, because he's older, for sure.
mhm.
Um, it's so. I mean, if we were to remove him, we'd have what? We'd have Serena at 5, right?
Yep.
Michael Phelps. We still have Jordan and Ali. We would need to have a consensus on who that other spot would be in the top 5.
I mean, in that argument, though, it's just like if you don't have Babe Ruth, you don't have Jackie Robinson. If you don't have Jackie Robinson, you don't have Barry Bonds, and then you don't have all these modern players.
Well,
Yes, I would agree with that.
the Jackie Robinson one kind of touches on a different scenario. So you're right. If we don't have Babe Ruth, we may not have all of them. But if we don't have Jackie Robinson, not to get racial on this, but there's a whole bunch of other people that we don't have.
Exactly. That's what
So,
I'm saying. If you don't have Jackie Robinson, you're not going to see Barry Bonds because without Jackie Robinson, you're not going to have the colored athletes in baseball. So you
but
can't
again,
have Barry Bonds without Jackie Robinson. I don't know if baseball's as big as it is if you didn't have Babe Ruth.
but again, it's how you formulate your argument. So none of us put any of them in there, ironically.
So do we put Jackie Robinson in there then?
No, 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 no.
Because he
I'm not.
broke the color barrier.
Well, we could, but my point would to that would be this: we could always argue whatever we want to argue. The fact that none of us put it in our top 5, we can't just now take him and put him in. You have people who
Mhm.
we have people who we feel are more influential. I again am not a baseball person, so I can understand and respect the Babe Ruth, Jackie Robinson argument, but I think baseball has changed a lot throughout the years. Also, that I'd have to literally sit down and say, well, who am I considering the greatest of all time in baseball? Because some people will say players that are playing now, well, it's like the steroid era. Then you have players who played again. Okay, well, some of the backs were fake. Then you have players who played before. Well, the fields were shorter. You didn't play as many games. So I don't know how I would look at baseball. So I just skipped it altogether, to be honest with you.
Oh, I got this one. I don't know why This should have been an honorable mention, but Bo Jackson, and
Mm.
he should have been, if he played his full career, he should easily be in the top 5. But being that it got cut, like, I think 4 years, I mean, he was the best dual athlete I've ever seen.
So, I mean, he could have been in there, like you said, honorable mention. So,
Yeah. So I just
so the
wanted
ones
to
who,
give
the
him a
ones,
shout out.
oh, fair. The ones who aren't honorable mentions are Usain Bolt, Tiger
Mhm.
Woods, Tom Brady, Carl Lewis, and then we got to figure out if we still want Pele. But those are the 5 names we have, I believe.
Over all of those, I would put Pele, but I don't agree with Pele over Ronaldinho. But if I had to pick over any of those, I would pick Pele.
I would agree with that.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll put an asterisk next to it, and you know what? We'll table this conversation because is the World Cup here this year or next year?
It's this next World
It's
Cup.
it's next year.
Yeah, it's next year, and
Okay.
it is in the
But,
United
but,
States.
In the U.S., right?
Yeah, it
Or
is.
it's North
but
America. Whatever.
I'm quite sure we'll have some qualifying games this summer or some games, some good friendlies this year that we'll be talking about. So we'll move that conversation about Pele because I think there's still more meat on the bones for that one. So we have our top 2. Who do we got in the top 2? Well, we know who our top 2 are. Are we doing a 1A, 1B, or do we want to separate it 2-1?
I'm gonna say 1A, 1B.
Matt, what do you think? I'm moderating. I'll go with
Personally.
what you guys do.
I'm okay with 1A, 1B, although I would prefer Michael Jordan to be standalone. I'm okay for this instance with 1A, 1B, and we could put an asterisk next to just for like an initial for me, and I might have a change of opinion the next time we talk about this topic.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think GOAT debates are great. Obviously, we have some players who are playing in sports now who, when their careers are over, are going to get the luxury of being added to this debate. Who, we just had, again, I'm not a hockey fan. Who's the guy who just scored all the goals in hockey and passed
Ovechkin?
Wayne Gretzky?
Ovechkin.
Ovechkin. Is it Alex Ovechkin?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, cool. I do know the name. Well, I'm sure he'll be on some people's honorable mentions list. Again,
No.
maybe not ours, but some people's out there because
Ah,
it's fluid. As Stephen A. said, the list is fluid. It can go, it can be whatever. So, for
That's
all intents and
true.
purposes, our
hmm.
list is, and forever changing, by the way. 5, we have Serena Williams. 4, we have Michael Phelps. 3, we have Pele with an asterisk. We will revisit again during the summer. And no 2, but at 1A and 1B, we have Michael Jordan 1A, Muhammad Ali 1B. Again, asterisks, we will revisit during the summer because I'm sure GOAT debates will keep coming up. So, we are going to move on to some of our final topics. Baywood,
Yo.
I need some bets. It's the beginning of the week. I need to make some money. Help me.
Well, I guess we got to focus on the play-in tournament here, and we have the 2 7 and 8s on Tuesday, and Golden State is a 6-point favorite, and Orlando is a 4.5 point favorite over the Hawks. And on Wednesday we have the Mavericks versus the Kings, and the Bulls versus the Heat. Do we do our first ever parlay?
That's between you and Nick.
Well, normally
Um,
you can't spell parlay without L, so I would just tread lightly. However, um, Baywood's bets have been pretty hot. So, what are you thinking? Money line,
I
spreads,
know. I
overs,
think I'm gonna take Atlanta on the points.
What's the points?
+5?
Plus this +5.5 was the opening. When I click on it, no, open what it doesn't. Yeah, open was +5.5. Right now it looks like it's sitting at 4.5.
You're on DraftKings, right?
I'm on ESPN.
ESPN bet.
Yeah,
Okay.
I might take Atlanta money line. Check in on Tuesday. That's the game I'm looking at. I know I was
Okay.
just high on Orlando, but I think Orlando will get into the playoffs in the second uh, round of the play-in. I just don't know if the stage is too big for them against. I mean, Atlanta can just score.
Can I put a bet in?
Yeah,
I know it's your segment, but
We'll do
um,
Nikki picks part 2.
Nick's picks.
Yeah.
Um, I'm on DraftKings right now. Also, by the way, the Busted Coverage podcast has a betting group. So make sure you guys follow it if you're on DraftKings. Shameless plug. If you want to see me compulsively gamble like an idiot. But Mavericks Kings over 217.
Ooh. 217. So that's 107. No,
It's like 108
108.5.
each.
105, 108 each. So, ooh, that's a good one.
I
That's
would
all
go
for
with
this
that one.
segment. Oh, and just to recap again, we are coming off of the national championship winner with
Yes.
with the -1 for Florida. So we're still red hot on this on our Sunday picks. And also, just before we get to the next section, can we just congratulate Rory McIlroy for getting it done in the Masters today?
Yes.
Finally.
Yeah,
Clapping it up.
yeah.
Finally.
It's been years.
Finally got the Grand Slam.
Yeah, it was it was cutting it. He was cutting it close today too. I thought
Mhm.
he had the opportunity to win the Masters several times. I think he lost a 4-point lead at one point. So good for him. Anyway,
So, those are our bets of the week. Pull out your wallets, throw some money down. Blame Baywood and Nick if you lose. Nick,
Hi.
what are we ranting about this week? Talk to me.
76ers. You want to talk about a coach that should be fired? There it is. So I'm going to read something real quick. I want you guys to hear this. Okay.
Okay.
So here we go. President of Basketball Operations Daryl Morey said he and coach Nick Nurse would be back next season and, quote, assess everything to avoid it happening again. This is from ESPN today, a few hours ago.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we expect more. We really feel for the fans who put their heart and soul into this team, and we know we've let you down. Ownership gave us the resources to make aggressive moves this offseason to put a championship roster around Embiid and Maxey. And sometimes those aggressive moves don't initially work out, but we feel good about them. What exactly is there to feel good about if you're the Philadelphia 76ers right now,
Tyrese
today?
Maxey. Tyrese Maxey.
Okay, Tyrese Maxey, right? That's what you have, right?
Yep.
So here we go. Joel Embiid played 19 games. Paul George played 41 games. Maxey only played 52 games. The three stars combined 15 games together and less than 300 minutes overall. It didn't, we expect more. I mean, no shit. We expect more, especially from Joel Embiid. I'm not playing back to back games. And what did Nick Nurse do? Okay. That is completely unacceptable. I don't care that Joel Embiid won an MVP. I don't care that Paul George has a podcast, which isn't as good as ours, by the way. And I bet I can shoot a better 3-point percentage than Paul George and play more minutes. I'm a thick boy. I got sciatica, and I can play 300 minutes in a season. It's ridiculous. And the fact that these two bozos get to stay in their positions, yet the Nuggets coach gets fired for winning and for being a champion. It's I'm going to say this though. I love Tyrese Maxey. I think that kid is spectacular.
Absolutely.
But I am telling you guys this right now. if they don't move off of Embiid and George, Nurse and Morey got to go. They gotta go. Morey has had more than enough time to do anything for this city. He's got to go. Like, go. And I'm sorry for the profanity that I'm about to use. Fuck Paul George's podcast. Okay? And fuck Joel Embiid, too, while we're at it. That piece of shit should be playing back-to-back games. Because it seems that the only way that Philadelphia will be competitive. And if he's not willing to play back-to-back games, I don't know what that tells you. It tells you that he's got no balls. He's soft. He basically said, I am not him. That's what he said. Essentially. And until then, Philly ain't bout shit. At least the Sixers ain't bout shit, because go Birds. But I'm sorry. This Philadelphia 76ers organization is a joke. It is poorly managed, and it's run by a complete softy. Mr. Softy. You know, the frozen treat thing? Yeah. That's what you got. You got playoff podcast P, and you got Embiid, and they need a set of balls, and they need to get in the gym, and they need to be in the conference finals next year. Period. That's my take.
No, I agree. I think that Philly has had a year where expectations were very high, and not only did they not meet them, they didn't even show up. You know,
Bro,
I
Ben Simmons is playing more meaningful basketball right now. Ben Simmons,
And
who
he
was
was
just on Shaqtin' a Fool 2 nights ago.
and he was the issue in Philly.
Yeah,
I will
my
say
bad.
this though. I will say this. I do like Nick Nurse. I don't blame him for this. Obviously, you're not going to come out and tell a player, the star player on the team, no, you're going to do this in a live media show. I don't think that's the way to handle it. I am a Nick Nurse fan. I think he was the right person to bring in for that job. I do not like the way the cards fell. I think he will be the scapegoat that they will use to get next year, and they will use this to get rid of him. But I think they will start the season, like I said weeks ago, is I think that we will not see any trade of Joel Embiid over the summer. We will see how the offseason and the preseason go. If the team does not start off well, I think you'll see some major trades. I think Paul George is out. I think Joel Embiid could be out,
How many
depending on
times can
what.
Paul George get traded?
Well, you know what? You do it. He did it to himself, so I can't even be mad at it. You know, he would still be in a Clipper today had he taken the contract they offered him, which to me was a better team than Philly. But I understand what he saw in Philly. I don't think he anticipated Joel Embiid pulling this when he signed to be here. But I mean, he can get traded as long as he doesn't play up to his potential. He'll be traded every few years. Sorry,
Also,
that's what's going to happen.
need to correct my pick. I did not realize that 99% of Atlanta was out, including Trae Young. I'm going to just pretend that Nick's pick of the over 217 was my pick, and I'm just gonna rock with that. It's already locked in.
So they will not be playing. The 99% of Atlanta will not be playing in the play-in.
Yeah, let me just read you quickly.
Is that what we're hearing?
Yeah, yeah, it's not good. I looked at because I was like, I don't even know why Orlando's favored.
Oh, here we go. I see it. George Niang, Onoweku, Carlo, Karis LeVert, Trae Young, Dyson did. Yeah,
The
wow.
whole
I
team.
would not be picking them.
Yeah, no, I'm not doing that.
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, Banchero's out too.
I'll say Bankero's out, so oh, very interesting. It'll be an
Sure,
interesting
that's not
game.
from Philly.
So who's playing? Jonathan Isaac, Silva, Wendell Carter. Oops, wrong team. Zachary Roche, Kyron Wallace, Terrence Mann.
In other words, ladies and gentlemen, please fast forward to hour two with 39 minutes to go. Do not listen to the pick that I
Yeah,
just had a second ago because it is going to be a disaster. If for
Baywood is
whatever
going back
reason,
on his pick.
you bet it and it hits, just thank me because I'm just the greatest of all time when it comes to this. But when it comes to just if you end up losing it, you should have listened to the rest of the podcast. That's on you.
Yeah. Well, on that note, I am going to give you my game of the week to watch. But in essence, it's basically just going to be one game because as good as some of these playing games are, I really feel that not really only one, but one of the major ones to watch is just the Memphis versus Golden State game. Again, it's not that the other playing games aren't going to be good. I'm sure they will be. But Memphis Golden State has such a huge impact on what could potentially happen in the West that I think that's going to be the game to watch. Chicago versus Miami, or Atlanta versus Orlando. First of all, Atlanta's banged up, so again, we're assuming they're going to lose. Chicago or Miami, neither one of those teams are going to beat Cleveland. So, at the end of the day, Golden State and Memphis is the game to watch. Unfortunately, that's a playing game, but nonetheless, we will be watching. Well, thank you all for paying attention to this. I'm sorry it went so long, but we had a lot of great conversation. Some great GOAT debate. We closed out our NCAA tournament conference champions. For those of you who are like, you didn't do the women, we did the women last week because our show posted before the game. So we were able to get the women in there. WNBA draft tomorrow night or tonight, being that this will post on Monday, I believe. So we will update you on where Paige Buckets is going next week. We have some baseball.
Spoiler alert. She's going first.
Just in from Nicholas Sampieri. She's going first.
Sorry.
I don't know. There might be somebody else who popped out. You never know. Yeah, it's been a great week. We got some great shows coming up. The NBA, NFL draft is coming up. I believe that's in 2 weeks, if I'm correct. We may do a special show for that. I'm not sure, but again, we want to thank you all for coming out. And again, leave comments in the box. We will look at them. If they're bad, we will delete them. If you have suggestions, always feel free. Or if there's something you want us to talk about, let us know. Again, thank you, Liz, for reaching out. We'll always have a conversation about whatever you guys want to hear. And again, this is Nicholas Sampieri, Cameron Griffin, Matthew Baywood, and this is your Busted Coverage Podcast. Good night from around the world.